and then looking a little bit further ahead, Noah Austin does have a chance to play in this first-round series. Sam Carrick, however, does not, and that is according to head coach Lindy Ruff. And the Sabres injury report is brought to you by Hamburg Overhead Door. Is your garage door injured? Call the experts at Hamburg Overhead Door to get your door healthy again. Now to what we do know in full for the playoffs. It's the first games on Saturday. We'll get going at 3 p.m. Ottawa at Carolina. Then it's 5:30 Dallas hosting Minnesota. And then following that, to wrap up the night at 8, it'll be Pittsburgh hosting Philadelphia. Some early afternoon baseball. The Yankees are up on the Angels 3-2 in the 4th, and the Jays and Brewers are tied 1-1 in the 6th. Later tonight, we'll have the Bisons at Rochester. First pitch for that game will be at 6:05 and can be heard on our sister station, the Bet 1520. And today is the day. Streaming live on YouTube, our annual draft special from 4 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. We'll get the latest with just a week before round 1, and we'll have some guest appearances from Jeremy White, Joe DiBiase, Nate Giri, and Sal Capacio. And it is brought to you by your Upstate Honda dealers. For great deals, visit your local Upstate Honda dealer today. It's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones from Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
It's Mike Schopp.
It's nothing you did.
It's not you, it's me.
It's not you. It's you, but you didn't cross me.
And the Bulldog.
Why did I choose? Why did I just stay in school?
On WGR, Sports Radio 550.
Hi there. Here we go. The playoffs, which we still only mostly know the plan for. And the NFL draft, which we hardly know the plan for as far as the Bills go. But I know what I want in terms of the Bills pretty much across the board. And as far as the Sabres schedule go, I mean, we'll, right, everybody raise your hand. We'll make it work. Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon, Sunday night. Now it's starting to sound like Sunday night, almost like they are postponing a doctor's appointment or something. Like, not that it was ever official to be Saturday at 2, but I was in the arena last night, asked many times what is going to happen with the schedule. Why don't we know yet? I'm like, well, we don't know yet because there are still games to go, I guess. But my guess is Saturday at 2. And, you know, I'm sure people went like, okay, Saturday at 2, because he would know. Then it's not. There's not even a Saturday at 2. There's a Saturday at 3. Ottawa, which is not, that's not Hockey Night in Canada specific. That would be Saturday night, which is the Flyers and the Penguins. So that doesn't work. I don't know. Sorry, anybody that I was wrong. I always, you know me, like, well, if you do, you do. I know I make an effort to do this every time. When I don't know something, but I think I have an educated guess or whatever, I will want to say that. Like, just so you know, I'm not sure. But anyway, it's not even going to be 2 o'clock. It's going to be Ottawa at Carolina at 3 o'clock. I saw that on Twitter today, following along, like maybe many of you. Bruce Garriosh from Ottawa, longtime Senators beat guy, I believe, unless he's a columnist too. He probably is. Saying that on his bingo card, he's going Ottawa at 3. Listen, we have to reset on bingo card, all right? What is a bingo card? A bingo card has 25 little boxes. People are using bingo card willy-nilly, completely without any sort of restrictions, any sort of thought. You don't have on your bingo card are all the possible answers. And if it's something that isn't among any conceivable answers, then, okay, well, I didn't have that on my bingo card. But your bingo card is not one thing. All right, well, I don't have to keep going on that. But looks like Sunday at 7 is the latest speculation. An ESPN announcer tweeted that he would have the game, and that would have to be one of the night games. Not going to put the Sabres. Here I am speaking like with I'm some sort of authority on this. Again, that has been dangerous, but they're not going to put Buffalo in like the late night Sunday spot. There's no reason to do that, as you do have Western teams. Probably 7 o'clock on Sunday. Old school. I mean, maybe the show has never sounded older, but going to Sabre games at 7 o'clock on a Sunday was like, that was the time of the week where like you could, I think, mostly expect the Sabres to play at home. Rare if they, this is a long time ago, but rare if they played on the road on a Sunday night. Sunday at 7. And that might be what we get. It was, before I say this, before I get back into the Sabres, as you may have just heard, and maybe you've heard promotion for this, today, a week before the NFL draft, is our annual NFL draft preview show, or pre-draft special, or it used to be called a mock draft special, even though we didn't do mock drafts. It's been called different things, but it is the pre-draft special. I'm going to talk to Sal today, Nate, Giri, Joe, and Jeremy, all between 4 and 6. It's brought to you by your Upstate Honda dealers. For great deals, visit your local Upstate Honda dealer today. So a lot of NFL today, and we'll get as much Sabres in along the way as we can. I'm eager to talk to Jeremy and Joe, especially, who I never get to talk to on the air, hardly, about the playoffs. So we'll see if I can get away with mixing a little bit of that in. I was in the arena last night, as I mentioned. So were some of you, and I just loved it. The fact that they lost in the shootout was, inconsequential to me and probably to you. I wanted as much of that game as I could get. And I think that's an interesting little psychological evaluation opportunity, what you felt, how you felt about last night. I just felt I could have had a smile on my face the whole night. It was so weird having a game like that where there's no Dahlin, there's no Thompson. I mean, also Zucker and Samuelson and McLeod. Like, you had regulars, stars, sit for the game. So that was like sort of in a preseason column. The game didn't matter at all in the standings preseason, but it's also April 15th, and the playoffs are next, and everybody's got a sort of excited attitude about that, especially this year, of course, because it was so unexpected, and there's no recent baggage. There's no Bills baggage, right, where you just have like, oh, they'd better do it, or else. Think about how the Bills went to the playoffs 7 years in a row and fired their coach. Just, if you can possibly put yourself back a decade and imagine that happening. I mean, I guess it would happen the way that it did, which is they just sort of bumped their head on the AFC playoff ceiling time after time and like, okay. And then also probably some sort of fracture in their relationships. But here with the Sabres, as we've talked about all the time, and I'm sure you sort of sense this, and maybe have thought about it, there's none of that. There's the last 15 years, but really, like, except for in a weird way, Lindy Ruff, everybody's different. Almost even ownership, who jumped in Terry and Kim 15 years ago that season. So it's so fresh. And I feel like there's almost really, well, how do I want to put this? It would suck if they lost, but I'm just not worried about it. Not that they couldn't lose. I mean, any NHL series can go wrong, or any, playoff game in football or whatever. But I'm just not, I don't expect to be really crushed if that happens against Boston, even in the first round. I don't expect to feel that way. I think what they have done was really important. It was, of course, long overdue that they would reclaim this relevance in the market, in the league. And I think as a fan, and you might feel this way, especially maybe if you've been going to games all these years and it's felt so lonely, to remind everybody what Buffalo is as a hockey market. I mean, there's so much you can say, and we've said it many times for many years. The Bills and Bills fans have prominently carved out this certain reputation for, being rabid fans and loyal and all the things that go with sort of the Bills fan, the reputation of the fans, the way that they're thought of, the tables and face painting and just everything out in the snow with no shirts on, all the things that like maybe somebody in some other part of the country thinks of quickly when they think of this fan base for football. And it's special, if not unique. It's unusual. There aren't many fan bases you would think of in the same way. Green Bay, Chicago, maybe a couple others, but Detroit plays inside, and it's just a different world now. But at least to this point, maybe it'll change in the new place. There's no roof though. Like the Bills fans have this very special place in, not to be melodramatic, but football lore, right? But the Sabres experience, hockey fans here, it's not all the way different, but it's still also very serious and intense. And with a team like this that loses for so long, it just sort of gets lost. And maybe it's the fact that the building is half empty that is the story, not that we're so serious about it. When I go to games or even watch them on TV nowadays, this was who recently? Maybe it was the Bruins when they were here last, or Dallas last night. Some of these games, Columbus, anybody, veteran players on. I think about, like during the anthem, I'll think about this. Veteran players on the other teams who might have this thought if they're not just completely immersed in, the game they're about to play. Like, just, wow, this is different. I thought about Tyler Myers last night, thinking about that. When he got here, it was this. It was close enough to this. Teams went to the playoffs. When he was playing in junior or just sort of approaching being drafted, the Sabres were great. And it wouldn't have been such a foreign thing. But then what happens? He ends up a part of a team that's going the wrong way, ends up being traded, and then a decade or so goes by. And now he comes back here last night on a team that's going to the playoffs itself. And you've got just this incredible buzz in the building. It's just like, that's really fun for players. It's something that Buffalo should be known for when it comes to sports. Not just, and this evolves. I mean, this was different, again, 10 years ago. But not just that we're these maniacs out at the stadium tailgating all day and, whatever, good or bad, that comes with that. But it's also this, and this makes Buffalo, I think, I want to say, for an American market, maybe unique. It makes it special. Unique is one of a kind, and people misuse that word. I'm trying not to do that. It's special. And now we get to enjoy that, and we also get to flaunt that. And here's me, well, it's water, raising a glass to the whole thing. Can't wait. Last night, nothing to lose. Again, I started to say it, like the psychological aspect of this where, I don't know. I guess, of course, they get to the playoffs, and it's Game 7, and it's overtime. I'm riveted like everybody else, and I'm dying for that. But I don't really want to feel like I'm dying necessarily when I'm watching a game. I loved last night because there was nothing to lose, and the whole thing was so enjoyable. The Benson goal was so much fun, and just like that guy. And I wanted to show my wife this goal today because she missed the game, but ended up with a highlight package that only showed like the goals themselves without showing, in this case, the entire Benson experience on that shift where he's going in shorthanded and then gets taken out and the fans boo a little bit. Like, is that a penalty? Dallas comes back. What does he do? He gets up. He busts it all the way back, then stops or loops around as the puck bounces back outside the blue line, and he goes in again and scores. Like, he's doing Herbies within a game and scoring a shorthanded goal on it. I just loved it. I was telling, you did see me throw a couple of high fives last night. I was just enjoying myself so much. As that's not me, but it did happen. And talking to people around me about that goal, like, I don't know if that's the goal of the year. It'd be a tough one to call the goal of the year in a game that didn't matter for as well as they've done. But, man, I just loved that. So here we go. Now it's going to be different. And we've been waiting, a decade and a half for it to be different, and it's about to be. The Sabres finish with 109 points, 3 clear of Tampa and Montreal in the Atlantic Division. Tampa loses at home, didn't need the game to the Rangers. Montreal wrapped the night before. They lost 2. So 109 ends up being the winning number. 4 back of Carolina. How about all of this? We're used to, at best, talking about as the Sabres season ends, how far away were they? In the standings and then also in terms of the roster, but that's not where I'm going here. Just like, well, how many points back? What would it have taken? Imagine like Washington loses with 95. They're out. I mean, they didn't even make it with 95. Vegas wins the Pacific with 95. Washington misses the playoffs in the East with 95 points, not to mention Detroit, Columbus, 92 each, Islanders, 91. I mean, those sometimes are playoff numbers, but not this time. Ottawa finishing in the second wild card and in 5th place with 99 points. That's crazy. Again, compared to the West. Los Angeles is in the playoffs. I mean, this has been pointed out, but just again, LA has a game tonight. Their record in regulation, so their record at the end of the third period, 22, 26, and 33. So they have played 81 games. 33 of them have gone to overtime. They have 22 regulation wins. That is fewer than any team in the Eastern Conference. That is fewer than any team in the league except Vancouver, tied with Chicago. And that was good enough. 22 regulation wins, the Kings. It's very strange this year, East versus West. Ottawa, 99, just barely good enough. 5th place. Who wouldn't take? Any team would take, I think, 99 points in a regular season. But this year in the Eastern Conference, it was just barely enough. Philadelphia at 98. Their regulation record is funny, too. 27, 28. No, sorry, let me start again. 27, 27, and 28. That just does not look like a sports record. 27, because it's sort of intuitively for me, being older, that looks like ties. 27, 27, and 28 just does not compute. But that was the Flyers' record in regulation. So that means they won 16 games in overtime or shootout, and then 12 that they lost. Crazy. Bring it on. I think in a certain way, every team in the East can like their draw. I mean, Ottawa as the second wild card, there's no real conversation there. If you're the last team in, you get who you get. And you can't be upset. And the Senators got Carolina, and like, all right, well, they're in the playoffs. That's a win. And with a 5th place season, you can't be greedy. You might have liked a different draw. You might have liked the Sabres instead. But they're sort of off the table for me for this. And I think Carolina, the difference between Ottawa and Boston, or even Montreal perhaps, is not significant enough. I'm kind of with Travis on this. I don't want to obsess about Ottawa. I think if I'm Carolina and I've had the season they've had, I'll take anybody on. Just there are better draws than others, I suppose, but I'm not really too worried about it. Like, you tell Carolina you get Ottawa in a best of 7. Okay. I mean, they won 53 games, Carolina. So they're probably not bent over how it fell. I think Pittsburgh and Philadelphia have to love getting each other. I think the Penguins are a better team, in my opinion. And so getting Philadelphia is sweet for them, and it's a rival. So for the fans' sake, that's pretty hot. And for the Flyers, they could have done worse. They could have gotten Carolina, perhaps, or some other draw in the other division. Penguins, okay. I think they would both be. I mean, I don't have my dream of teams picking their respective opponents. But I think if we did it that way, it might come out, depending on the order. I mean, I feel like it might come out the same or really not that. It's just I think everybody is probably feeling pretty good about who they got. Tampa getting Montreal, I think Tampa's probably fine with that. What were their other possibilities? The Sabres. I mean, it could have been the Bruins, but Montreal, I'm thinking about Bulldog on this. By the way, he's not here. Should tell you that at some point. I meant to. His talking about Montreal and just like, well, there's one great line, and then who knows? And I think the Lightning, who seem super cocky to begin with, could they'd be fine with that. I mean, they'd take that matchup. I think they'd probably take any matchup, but okay. Canadians against the Lightning, I mean, they've beaten them recently. They've played close games. They tied in the standings, each having 106 points. They can't be upset. I don't think Montreal would have been probably bothered by any outcome, Sabres, Lightning, whoever. So I think they're probably fine. And then you have our series. And as I said yesterday, I think the Sabres and Bruins are probably both fine to have each other. I'm sure, well, I'm thinking about the fans more than the players, but I think we're all pretty happy with how it fell, mostly. Could have been Ottawa, could have been Tampa, could have been Montreal, Boston, of the different possible outcomes, since it wasn't going to be a team from the other division. Great. There's nostalgia with it too. Home ice. Great. But I have to say, I think the Bruins would feel the same way. Drawing the Sabres, it could have been harder. They just, Carolina, Tampa, it could have been harder for Boston. So I think everybody's happy, I would say, in the Eastern Conference. And, I mean, I just can't wait for it. You're probably the same way. We might have to wait until Sunday instead of Saturday by how it seems today. But I think I've got it in me. Do you? We can wait another day? Again, lots of football today with the annual NFL Draft pre-draft special. That's what you're listening to, or you're basically listening to the lead into that. One tweet said it was at 3. Email says it's at 4. I'm here. Whatever you want. You can count all this Eastern Conference playoff breakdown stuff, part of the NFL pre-draft special. Do what you want with it. Tell your friends. At 4, we focus on football with Sal, Nate, Jeremy, and Joe for most of those 2 hours. Paul's going to come on next, though. And, I mean, it's good. It's this weekend. We got to turn the page and start talking about the lineup. Alex Lyon is almost back. Stanley and Timmins today. We'll see what Paul has to say about what the Sabres might be thinking for Game 1. I saw today from the Sabre notes that Beck Malenstein surpassed Marcus Foligno for the most hits in a Sabre season since 05-06, which I guess is when they started counting hits as a stat. So Malenstein didn't even know I was watching that last night, but breaks the modern-day Sabres record for most hits in a season, passing Marcus Foligno. So there you go. The Sabres finished 31 points ahead of the Leafs. Okay. Before the season, would you have taken a push with Toronto? Maybe. 31 points ahead of the Leafs. I'll take a break here and welcome Paul in next. Bulldog is off until Tuesday. You know, if you've been listening, that it crushed him to miss. I mean, he got lazy. He was thinking about himself and his wife and not thinking about playoff hockey. And, some live that down and some do not. But I'm sure he'll have a nice time. And I look forward to having him here back, maybe even by Game 2. If they start Sunday, he's going to miss one game. He's going to love Sunday at 7.
Oh, that's the one I think he wants right there.
He's not going to have to be chasing around elk, and missing the Sabres. I think Sunday at 7 is perfect for him, assuming it's not going to be like 10 or something like that, because that's not what we're going to get. I'm Mike Schopp. Thanks for listening. Paul joins me next. We'll do some more Sabres talk, then eventually get into the Bills and the draft 1 week from tonight. This is WGR. 109 points. That will do. I wouldn't have taken 89 before the season, although 89, I believe, would have topped their over-under. I think that was somewhere around 87.5, maybe. I know they cleared it like a long time ago. I wouldn't have taken 89 because that wouldn't have been good enough to make it, and then so why take that? I might have sooner taken 59, some number that gets you closer to the first pick than something in the middle. 89 is possible. In the Pacific Division, it almost wins it. 99 is Ottawa's number. 95 misses. I would have taken 95 before the season, thinking that would be good enough. Progress, too. But Washington landed there and does not get in. What a weird year. East versus West. Here we go. Regular season in the books. 50 wins. The Sabres losing a shootout last night to Dallas. Fun night. Paul Hamilton with me now. Bulldog is off today. Paul joins me. I'm Mike Schopp here on the West Her hotline. How was last night for you, Paul? Was it strange just with everything mixed together? Stars not playing, not Dallas Stars, but our Stars not playing, the lack of really any incentive to win, the playoffs on the horizon. It's not a preseason game. It's April, not September. I don't know. Last night I loved it, but it was a little different.
Yeah, well, you know me. I just enjoy being in front of hockey, so that was good. But even a little test the Sabres had in a game that basically is a preseason game, Dallas had their guys. Buffalo did not. And they sat Dahlin and Thompson, and you know the list. But yet, Buffalo dominated the first period. I think played very well. And just showed us again that if they play the game the right way, even missing those guys, they're competitive. And really could have won the game. Pearson was right on the doorstep with a few seconds left. That could have won the game. And had Alex Tuck scored on his shootout, that would have won the game. So they were right there. So it again tells us how good they are as a team, that they've learned that if you play the right way, you always have a chance to play, even if you're missing some guys.
Paul, I just so loved the Benson shorthanded goal. I mean, I said earlier, it's like he was doing a Herbie drill all the way down, gets blasted, gets up, all the way back. Then here comes the puck all the way down. I mean, he had enough of a lead on his breakaway to be able to get there. But just, I love this player, and that goal for me was just one example of what he does so well.
Yeah, and it also tells me too that I may not be far off, because he's only 20 years old, and I've said all along, do I think he's going to score 35 goals? Probably not. But he was a point getter in junior. Very often that translates, and I'm not willing to say he's not going to be a point getter in Buffalo. I mean, he's on this streak right now of consecutive games. I think it's 7 points in 5 consecutive games he's been scoring. He's scored probably 3 or 4 highlight reel goals in the NHL, and I'll include that one. That's Ottinger you're coming down on, and you pick the top corner on him. I mean, with a good shot, and I just think there's more there that we're going to see, before it's said and done. I mean, I don't think 20's out of the question, and I just think the talent is there, and he's done it before at every level he's been at, that I just think there's more to come from an offensive standpoint with him.
And to your earlier point, or points, just about the Sabres' depth without their top guns in the lineup last night, on display last night. And that, for me, Paul, would be an important edge against the Bruins, from what I know against the Bruins, where you have some stars, but you might just have better in terms of depth than Boston. Do you think that?
Yeah, and the Sabres just have to do a better job on Pasternak and Geekie. They both have killed them this year. But it's very hard to judge because, the 2 games in Boston were in October. Well, neither team is even close to what they were then. So it's hard to tell where they are against each other. Boston with Swayman, and I talked to Tage Thompson about him today because if you recall, they were teammates on Team USA at the World Championship, and Swayman was one of the big reasons they won.
Last year.
Yeah, he was great in goal. So, Tage has been teammates with him and knows him very well. And, if Boston wins this series, I think that's probably what we're going to be looking at. Two things. That Swayman was fantastic, and the other would be Boston took the penalties like they always do, and Buffalo didn't make them pay for it. They didn't. The power play didn't come through. They've got to make them pay for those dumb penalties that they take, if they take them in the playoffs, and I don't see why they wouldn't. It's their thing. But they got to make them pay with the power play. So those are the two things to me that I think are really key in this series.
We've talked about it already since knowing the Sabres would play the Bruins, Paul, but to sort of set up the same maybe commentary, you can't complain about this, I think, if you're the Sabres with who you drew. It's not always going to be true when you win your division or finish as a top seed that you like your matchup. Given other possibilities, but I think the Sabres probably would, and I think the Bruins probably would. They're playing against a team that has no playoff experience to speak of, and is not, perfect in every way. So I bet both teams are pretty confident.
Well, in this particular case, if you rank the Eastern Conference 1 through 8, the Sabres would have got the Penguins. That could be a problem too.
You mean by points?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that could have been a problem too.
Sure.
Had two gone against 7, which would have been Pittsburgh, and now you're going up against Crosby and that group. So for Buffalo, Carolina would not have gotten Ottawa; they would have gotten Philadelphia. So that would be the biggest difference. The biggest difference comes in the second round, where if Buffalo advances, they get Montreal or Tampa Bay. That's where the biggest difference would be, that you wind up with the 3 or 4, let's think about it. If 1 through 4 gets through they would have wound up with 3. So
right.
it's just the same thing probably, that you would have gotten in the second round. But that would be the difference. Instead of Boston, you would get Pittsburgh. I don't know if that's what you'd sign up for.
No, that's my point. That if you just went by points, it doesn't mean that you would rank those teams in terms of quality the same way. Yeah. And I think they would be happy to get the Bruins versus I think the Bruins are an easier beat than the Penguins would be. And you don't have to agree with that. But
no, I do, other than in goal. The goal would be different. But
yeah.
Crosby and Malkin, Malkin got real hot at the end of the year. And from an offensive standpoint, they got some points from Karlsson. From the point, but you can also take advantage of him defensively too, which the Sabres I think could do.
So what did we learn today, or what did you learn today about Game 1 and how the Sabres want to set things up? Anything?
Well, they didn't find out till the middle of practice what day they're even playing on. Yep. So Lindy Ruff was going by, all right, well, we got to go by we're playing Saturday because we have no choice because we might be playing Saturday. If we're playing Sunday, we'll pivot, which is now what they'll do. But they went with the idea we're going to play Saturday. I think had they known last night that they were going to play Sunday, I think today would have been a day off instead of practice. But they knew the opponent. Of course they practiced the power play. The only difference I saw in the lineup was the third pair. Timmins right now is on it, not Metsä. I did see Metza's Amerks bag bouncing around the hallway. I don't know if that means anything or not. May mean nothing. May mean that somebody from the Amerks is showing up and they're going to give him the bag back. I don't know. But, so – and I really think Metsä the last little bit hasn't looked anywhere near as good as he did for most of the season. But still, that's not the move I would have made.
Well, they gave him a new partner, and I'm not saying it's all Stanley's fault or anything like that. But
that went well for the first half of maybe their time together, and then it didn't go well after that. So
how many games is that?
And then, you can trace some of the goals back to Metsä. The goal against Dallas off the back wall. Metsä didn't pick up the guy on the post. That's his guy. He wasn't even close to him. I mean, you can't let that guy be standing there just in case the puck comes off the backboard. The goaltender has to know you've got that guy. So there's one right there that has nothing to do with Stanley. I think Stanley takes more heat, because people love Metsä. So every goal that goes in from the pair, it's suggested that, well, look who he's playing with, type of a thing. And sometimes that is true. And other times I don't think it is.
Well, that's fine. I mean, that's fair. I just think probably there would be an adjustment no matter who it is. And it wasn't that he was playing with the same partner every game anyway before the deadline. I mean, there were different combinations, but there's always going to be
during
some
the game,
adjustment.
they'll mix it up. Like all of a sudden, Darlene will be out with Metza, or Byram will be out with Stanley. So they'll mix it up during the game too to get some of those guys more ice.
What about Alex Lyon, Paul?
Looks like he'll be back at practice tomorrow. Ellis is day-to-day with whatever that is. I mean, injuries will be very brief now because we're going into the playoffs. Tuck, basically, since he played last night and didn't get the day off like the others did, Lindy Ruff gave him the day off today. So he'll be back tomorrow, I would assume. And Lyon will be back tomorrow. As far as Ostlund goes, he's doing well. Lindy Ruff said there's a good chance that he will play in the first-round series. Carrick will not. I would be surprised. I still say that, and I'm, of course, no doctor, but I still believe I would be surprised if Carrick we see him at all. I mean, that just looked like a really bad injury, quite honestly. He said about Ostlund, he's a definite possibility was his quote. And Carrick is out for the first round. So we don't know what it is, but the way he went down on that arm, wow. If it would be a miraculous recovery, I think, if we see him again this year.
Be a couple of weeks before there's any talk about it at all, if they make that far from what was said today. Alex Tuck getting his 200th goal before the buzzer goes on the regular season. Good for him.
Yeah, and I mean, Thompson got his 40th before his season was over, and Tuck gets his 200th goal, so, before his season's over. What I think about a lot is, how in the playoffs for the successful teams, there's always the one guy who is the big part of the team that guy had 5 goals this year. He's got 9 in the playoffs already. And I'm trying to think, who is that guy on the Sabres? Is it Benson?
You never know.
Is it Mallenstein? Who might that guy be? Krebs? Well, Krebs, Benson, and Norris have been scoring recently. Quinn, I thought, had a great first period last night. He had 7 shot attempts. Unfortunately for him, 5 of them were over the net. But he was getting himself loose and playing a really good period. He just couldn't get the puck on net. It was over the net or wide, but he certainly was getting himself open.
My friend last night at the game said at one point during all that, he's going to score tonight if it kills him.
Yeah.
And he did score in the shootout, which, as you put it once, he's pretty money in those spots.
I think your friend just described how he played. He was great. I mean, if you're picking stars at the end of the first period, even though he's missing the net, I probably might have picked him as the first star. Or might at least a third star, because Norris and Benson also played very well in that period. But, he was doing well. I mean, if he plays like that in the playoffs, he's going to score. There's just no question.
So quickly to wrap here on Lyon, Paul, is this ahead of schedule? What did Ruff say about him like a week ago, his chances of being ready for the playoffs?
He said, let's give him a week, and we'll go from there. So, in other words, don't ask for a week. He's going to be out a week, and then let's talk about it.
Okay.
And we're just over a week, So I would say at least they had this on their mind that it could be around now. So and it looks like if he's going to be at practice, that's going to turn out to be right.
Good sign. Do you have anything to say about the schedule stuff?
Oh, it is an embarrassment, an absolute. Well, this league embarrasses itself almost on a daily basis. I mean, it's an absolute embarrassment. I mean, I feel like saying, just let us know by noon on Sunday what time you want us to be at the rink. How's that? It's just so stupid. I mean, the problems, whatever they are, people say, well, they're arguing with Sportsnet. Okay, fine, but you have to figure it out, right? Why can't you figure it out 2 days ago or 3 days ago? The argument was going on then, so why does it have to go on till now? And to figure it out. And then you put out the thing, but you can't put out times. Really? Look what the NFL does. Not that they're perfect by any means, but the playoff schedule is out sometimes at halftime of the last game on Sunday night. definitely out by the end of that game.
Yep.
And people know what's going on. I mean, the Boston Bruins didn't know if they had to be here yet by tomorrow until the middle of today. People and I know nobody cares about the media, but the Boston media, they didn't know. Do we have to be in Buffalo tomorrow? They don't know. And now they know now, but they didn't know at noon if they may have to be in Buffalo tomorrow. Nice.
Well, what I was saying last night to people was, we don't know yet, but the team probably does, and I think that was wrong.
You're right, it was wrong. They didn't know.
That's what's interesting is the media, sure, and the fans, that matters a lot, but it seems that the teams didn't know. And
I know for sure they didn't know.
They couldn't have.
No, they didn't.
So I mean, when the Sunday announcement came out, you could tell that was not what had been, expected.
Which means the Sabres had to schedule, or the Bruins had to schedule a charter for tomorrow and for Saturday. So they're covered.
Well, those are cheap. That shouldn't be anything. They can cover that.
Yeah, get your jet ready.
Thank you, Paul.
Take care.
Paul Hamilton on the West Her Hotline. The Sabres and Bruins open their playoff series on Sunday. My guess is 7 o'clock at night, but I'm, maybe out of guesses. That's what it looks like to me. We will kick off, our pre-draft special coming up at 4. Sal Capacio, the first to join. You can watch our conversations, Sal, Nate Giri, Jeremy, and Joe, throughout the afternoon on YouTube if you want. Last year, don't forget, you're on camera for the pre-draft special. Now it's every day. So it wasn't even like I dressed up or anything. No visor, though. I got a haircut. I feel like when you get the haircut, the visor is almost an insult to the person who cut your hair. So I didn't want to do that. I was happy with her. So now you know that. Sal Capacio at 4, Mike Schopp here. No Bulldog until Tuesday. This is WGR.
If you want more miles per gallon and less pain at the pump, check out Honda, America's most fuel-efficient full-line automaker, featuring Honda's award-winning hybrid lineup, including Civic Hybrid, Accord Hybrid, and CR-V Hybrid, with all three making the Car and Driver 10 Best list. So whether it's a trip across country for vacation or just across town for practice, Honda helps make your ride more affordable. For deals that are easy on gas and easy to afford, see your Upstate Honda dealer today.
Sal Capacio to start off our pre-draft special coming up in about 10 minutes. Mike Schopp here. Bulldog is off today. I wonder how interesting or different things got in the league offices with respect to the playoff schedule. Everybody loves to kill the NHL, and I'll take my shots. It does seem a little much that it would have happened like this today, and the Eastern matchups were known for a couple of days, as Paul said when he was just on. I mean, that seems sort of hard to understand. Just for the team's sake, if not fans and media, to get that information out. So what went on there? I hope to find out. I think it's interesting. I hope we find out what happened there. But again, next, football. Sal joins. It's the pre-draft special on WGR.
Wheel drive SUV you can count on, and that means Honda. And right now, your Upstate Honda dealer has outstanding deals on Honda's all-star lineup, including MVPs like CR-V, HR-V, and the Honda Pilot. And right here, right now, there's never been a better time to get a great deal on an award-winning Honda SUV. For deals and details, visit upstate.hondadealers.com today.
We do know where the Sabres are going to be playing. It's going to be, of course, hosting Boston on Sunday for Game 1, but the time for that and all of Sunday's matchups will be announced along with the rest of the first-round schedule following the completion of tonight's games, which are all the Western Conference. The Sabres did have practice this morning. Alex Tuck was given the day off. Colton Ellis had a maintenance day, while Alex Lyon, he is expected to practice tomorrow. Then looking ahead, Noah Austin has a chance to play in the first round. However, Sam Carrick does not. And this according to head coach Lindy Ruff. And the Sabres injury report is brought to you by Hamburg Overhead Door. Is your garage door injured? Call the experts at Hamburg Overhead Door to get your door healthy again. Now to what we do know actually about the playoffs. The first games will be on Saturday, and the first one will be at 3. Ottawa at Carolina. Then it's 5:30. Dallas hosting Minnesota. Followed by that, Pittsburgh hosting Philly at 8. In baseball, we've got some early afternoon games going. The Yankees do trail the Angels 7-4 in the 7th, while the Jays are down 2-1 in the 9th to Milwaukee and Bisons. They are at Rochester tonight. First pitch for that game is at 6:05, and that can be heard over on our sister station, the Bet 1520. And today is the day. Streaming live on YouTube, our annual draft special. It'll begin coming up next and run till 6:30. We'll get the latest with just a week before round 1. We'll have some guest appearances from Jeremy White, Joe DiBiase, Nate Giri, and starting us off, Sal Capacio. And that is brought to you by your Upstate Honda dealers. For great deals, visit your local Upstate Honda dealer today. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones from Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
On the play fake. Late pressure coming into the end zone. Caught and touchdown by Concepcion.
Tigers back off. Reed tries to make a play in the move. Throws it end zone. Touchdown. KC Concepcion from 15 yards out.
I think he is just a guy that is going to help an offense, no question. And I actually compared him. He's somewhere between Jaden Reed and Stephon Diggs.
16.5 career sacks for Howell, the senior from Kansas City. And here comes another one by Howell. That's 17.5.
Cassius Howe, the pass rusher from Texas A&M, who was the SEC Defensive Player of the Year this past season. He is an excellent pass rusher. His ability to bend the edge really stands out. And under this new defensive system led by Jim Leonard, I think it'd be a great fit for Buffalo 26.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog on WGR.
Sad not to have Bulldog here for this, our special pre-draft special. You can watch live on YouTube like you can every day. We thank our friends at Upstate Honda Dealers for great deals. Visit your local Upstate Honda dealer today. Nate, Joe, Jeremy, as we go. First, Sal Capacio with me now on the West Her hotline. We've talked about this, Sal. Has Sabres fever obstructed your view of this NFL draft? I mean, football is your focus, but for me and for us, I mean, we'd have spent much more time on the draft in other years than this.
For sure. There's a lot of reasons for this draft to maybe be a little bit more on the back burner, but even in years where the Bills did pick later or drafts where it wasn't considered as highly touted as this one, it still was kind of the thing we talked about for most of April. That's changed. And so much so, Mike, that literally, even though I did the Mike North pod and we talked about the NFL schedule and you and I love the schedule, like the playoff schedule has been way more on my mind for the NHL over the last, 48 hours and today and figuring out what the heck is going on and what day they're playing and time they're playing and all that than the NFL schedule. So yes, I would say the NHL, the Sabres, the playoffs really kind of taking over a lot more in my brain than the NFL draft. But we're getting there. And I just did a mock draft yesterday over on Channel 4 with the Bills Kickoff Live crew, and that was a nice exercise. And I like doing the mock draft exercises because you kind of go through some of the permutations of, what could happen, and then you learn a little bit more about each player that you're thinking about.
We'll get to that. Before we leave the point about the schedule, as a schedule scholar like yourself, is it insane to you that hockey has not announced yet dates and times with the playoff starting in 2 days? Or is it does it make some sense or what?
I think it's ridiculous. I think that, I come from a football world generally with these sorts of things. And you know the schedule 6 days out at the latest for any NFL game, a flex game, whatever. They have to determine, a couple weeks out. And I get it because of the ramp up to an NFL game, but I mean, there are people making plans to go to games and trying to figure out what's going on. And Paul brought up a great point. I know he's not with you. I don't know if he said this with you, but he said it with me earlier today, which is, I know most people don't care about the media, but people have jobs to do. The media has to think about hotels and planes and all those kinds of things, but just fans. I had a friend of mine call today. He does not live in Buffalo. And he said, hey, I'm coming in for the game and, let's go, let's meet up, whatever. And do you know when? I don't know when. I don't know what time. So I just think it's ridiculous that the league doesn't think about those kinds of things. 2 days inside of 2 days just seems a bit ridiculous to me.
No.
I get it to get to Wednesday and Thursday, but as soon as that game ended, maybe on Wednesday night, last night, I think that's when the league kind of should have said, okay, here's your next game, Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, that's the point to me that is the most baffling, is that I think it's one thing for fans not to know. It would be nice, but I've assumed that the team would know by Tuesday.
Right.
I thought the Sabres would know when they're playing, and maybe they still don't. As we talk here on Thursday afternoon, they just know it's Sunday. I think probably it's 7, given the different clues that have come out, but we still don't have that official. Okay, so to the NFL draft, a week from tonight, you did a mock draft, you said, with your colleagues at Channel 4. What did you learn?
That there are really a lot of different kind of up in the air type of situations for teams. And I know that's kind of the case every year, but you could really make a case for so many different positions for so many teams. And the fact that there aren't these, I think it might come down, that's the case every year in a lot of ways. But I think this year it coincides, Mike, with not the best draft, not these slam dunk guys, just a lot of questions about a lot of guys. So, you could kind of see a lot of teams doing a lot of different things. And I think, the Bills kind of fall into that category. And when we got to, the way we did it on Channel 4 was, it was me, Tim Graham, Jonah Bronstein, Matt Perino, Thad Brown, and Mike Courtney. And we each had a team, right? You assign a team. When you get to the end, then everybody takes the Bills pick at 26 based on who's left. And we all had different picks for the Bills, except me at the end. I actually doubled up on what Thad did, but I could have easily gone with another player. So basically 6 people, you had 5 different options and maybe even 6 with the Bills, which was pretty cool, actually.
No doubt a range of positions then.
Yes. There were a range of positions, actually. Now that I think about it, we had receiver, we had off-ball linebacker, we had defensive line, and I think we had safety as well. So at least 4 positions, maybe 5. But I think that maybe – I don't think edge rusher was in there, but we discussed it.
Where did you end up?
So I ended up on Caden McDonald, the defensive lineman for Ohio State. Thad took him. I was reluctant to because I didn't want to double up, but I said, you know what, I'm just looking at it and going, I could see a guy like maybe a Christian Miller or Caleb Banks or someone, being another guy they would go with, but I liked that position. But it was tough. I mean, I think Tim went with wide receiver, maybe even Casey Concepcion. I don't want to speak for him. I have to go back and look. But I debated that, like who would be – he's certainly in play for me. But I went with Caden McDonald, and the reason is I just think the Bills really need a good interior run defender to pair with the guys that they have and the personnel they have and how Jim Leonard wants to run his defense. And they have said consistently since Jim Leonard's been hired that stopping the run. Where I kind of back off and go, well, I don't know if you do that is a couple of different reasons. Number one is the Bills have a lot of guys, and there are young guys under contract. You don't just want to move off of guys necessarily. Now, Dwayne Carter coming off the injury, question mark there, right? But they went and they re-signed Fedarian Mathis. They just drafted Deion Walker. They just drafted TJ Sanders. They have Ed Oliver. Like, I don't know where this guy plays if they take a guy. So I think that gets me to not really sure if that really be what I'm going to do. And the other thing is maybe the rotation part of it. Like, how much are you playing a guy at that position? But maybe it's a lot more than the Bills have normally done under Sean McDermott and Leslie Frazier and Bobby Babbitt. So I do think, though, that if Caden McDonald is available, he would kind of check all those boxes of what they need at that position, and I think they need that position.
With Sal Capacio, I'm Mike Schopp. It's our annual NFL pre-draft special that you can also be watching on YouTube as we do every day. presented by your Upstate Honda dealers. For great deals, visit your local Upstate Honda dealer today. Sal, I got to say, I hope some, if not most of this stop the run emphasis talk is just they're saying what they think people want to hear. You and I have talked for years about how maybe the Bills defense doesn't get enough attention for their being so superior against the pass. And what it's led to is, well, for one thing, great seasons. But even statistically, last year fell off a little bit. I think, and you might also think, that their inability to stop the run has been overstated. And I don't really want to see a different philosophy in this context from the Bills. We might. It's a new coach, and who knows. But I'm kind of hoping that that's sort of, it's one of these phrases that coaches love to, use all the time. And I don't want it to be so important to them.
I understand. I do. And I do think, though, the Bills want to be able to kind of control the game a little bit better and not let it get away from them sometimes. And I think that when you get teams who can run on you in first and second down, that allows them to be a little bit, more diverse on third down and things like that. All those football-y things we talk about. But, Mike, I also think that just there's not a lot of holes on this team necessarily, right? Not a lot of needs, starting especially, like starting positions. And I said to you, a couple weeks ago, and I maintain this, the only spot I could even see them thinking about on offense is wide receiver. Like, where's a guy going to play? I can't. We actually had a good debate actually on the show about interior defense, offensive line, and even offensive line overall. Like with Deion Dawkins, he's getting a little older. He's got a couple years left. I don't think it's in play for them. But some of the guys do, and thought that they could go offensive line early. I don't. I do think middle rounds is possible. Add some depth there. So I think only wide receiver. And then on the defensive side, I just think you can make a case for a lot of different positions, but mostly up front. So if you're going to go up front, I think you can make a case for a guy that you don't have a guy like this. You need a guy like this. So maybe we can say it a different way here to not sound like the football coach, which is not necessarily because you want to stop the run, which is what they talk about, but they don't really have a guy like that. Deion Walker, to me, Mike, and Bulldog has said this too, and I agree with him. If you put Deion Walker in the middle of the defense at the traditional nose, you're kind of taking away what he does best. And the way I always describe this is, if you don't have much of a point guard and you take your shooting guard and say, okay, you got to be a distributor and a point guard, you're actually hurting yourself in two areas, because he's not really the best point guard that you could find. He might be the best on your roster at that point, but you could do better. And then you actually need now to find another shooting guard. I think that's kind of the same thing with Deion Walker. Sure, can he play nose tackle? Yes. I don't think that's maximizing what he does best. So to maximize what he does best, to me, you need a guy like that. And then you're better at stopping the run, and then you're better at forcing teams to you're dictating terms a little bit more to them.
With Sal Capacio, I'm Mike Schopp here on WGR. Bulldog is off until Tuesday. You and I talked, and I presume Bulldog was here, the day after they traded for DJ Moore. And we talked about, would they draft a wide receiver in round one? Is that something that you could still see them doing? And I said no. And you might have also said no. I'm not sure. But it seemed,
I said yes.
You said yes. Okay.
And the reason was, if you remember, we had this discussion about I said yes because of the financials of it more than anything.
Right. Okay. Yep. As I sit here a week away, respecting that point very much, I still can't see it. I've got two roadblocks. Okay. One is I just used my second round pick on DJ Moore. So in a sense, I'm using my top two picks on wide receivers. I don't feel like they would want to do that ever. And I don't know if this matters to you. It may not. It maybe shouldn't matter to me. But just sort of the history with Brandon Beane on this subject is like that is full capitulation, Sal, if he goes and drafts a receiver in round one and his second round pick is spent on a receiver as well. That is full capitulation. And that would not, if I'm Beane, I wouldn't want that. I still had a great season, doing it the way I did it and what I defended about my build. And I just would not want to have it look like I could completely reverse course at the position. So maybe that's more selfish, or, not even, probably shouldn't be something that matters. But I think, often that kind of thing does. So
I think it can and does sometimes. You're saying optics, basically, right? The optics of him doing that would be not good for him. I don't know. I don't know if I want to go that far with Brandon Beane on doing it, but I totally understand where you're coming from. I would say on the point of the second round pick, and the first-round pick for sure. Mike, this comes down to one question for me. It really does. I've said this for a while. What do they think about Keon Coleman? I mean, if they truly believe that Keon Coleman is going to put his maturity issues behind him, they're not taking a first-round wide receiver. It just doesn't make sense to have DJ Moore, to have Keanu you just drafted a couple years ago, to still have, Khalil Shakir and Joshua Palmer, and it just doesn't make sense. We'll know everything they think about Keon Coleman, I think, if they actually do draft a wide receiver the first round, which to me says they don't believe in him. And I think we need the answer to that question first. And since we don't know it, we'll find it out maybe. But if they don't believe in Keon Coleman, there is still absolutely room near the top of this depth chart for another wide receiver. So I need that question answered, but I can't really get the answer to that question until it's kind of cart before the horse, chicken and egg type of thing that's going to happen on Thursday night next week.
Well, I've got two things here. One is, may I bring up again this quote from The Athletic by Brandon Beane that Joe Buscaglia tweeted 2 days ago. I didn't retweet it because I didn't want it to look like I was banging on Joe, because that would not be the point. Beane on Coleman, quote, "Listen, he has to go do it, but I think we feel confident that the maturity level is heading where it needs to." You think you feel confident that maturity is heading where it needs to? How many different words can you come up with to couch your position on this? I don't know. I haven't been optimistic for Coleman, and my reading between the lines here on Beane is that he's not either. Maybe Brady is, and there could be a little bit of a struggle internally if that's the case when it comes to playing time for Coleman. So I would say that first. This latest depiction of the situation from the GM does not make me feel good about where they're at or where he's at in terms of Coleman. Do you take that the same way or no?
I pretty much do. I think he has sounded the same since the combine. And that's after what happened with the Beane Pagula press conference, right? When that was kind of like, oh, wow, the shock of, what was said about Keon Coleman from the owner. And then they kind of, did their best to kind of unwind that a little bit, or, get back to where, hey, that the way it came out and what we feel about him. And then Joe Brady, the best thing that's ever happened to Keon Coleman and happened to you talking to Keon Coleman is me becoming your head coach. Then we get to the combine, and he talked about his maturity issues, and he needs to have the same kind of offseason he had last year and then continue it. But there's not we're absolutely sure we know where this is going. I think you're right. Every time he's talked about him, going back to the combine, the owners' meetings, that quote that Joe tweeted out, no doubt about it, I think every single one of them has the same common thread, which is hope more than certainty, right? That's what it sounds like to me. Hope more than certainty. And if you're banking on hope more than certainty, then I think that you also have to have doubt. And if you have doubt and you're not the guy that necessarily believed in him or drafted him, as the owner basically said, then I think it still leaves open the possibility that you do something to go over top of him in the draft.
Hope over certainty, or even just confidence. I mean, this sounds like he didn't even really want to say that he has confidence in Coleman. Just, I think we do. Well, that shouldn't really be a choice, confidence. You either feel it or you don't. Also, the second thing here, and then we can get to sort of a broader perspective before we run out of time, Sal, on the draft. Hayden Winks is an analyst that I have a lot of respect for, and he puts together his top 100 prospects, how they, in his opinion, his guess, when they will slot in at the draft. He has 15 wide receivers being drafted by the end of day 2, so the end of the 3rd round. The Bills don't have a second-round pick. To me, it is super clear that they need to get out around 1 and turn that pick into 2 picks on the second day, which that happens. The math works. And, they're not going to be, of course, the same level of prospect, even at just wide receiver. But there are some interesting options there. And in terms of pick 26, I'm kind of I'm hoping for Concepcion, but that's all I would do at receiver with that pick. I mean, I don't expect anybody else that goes mock usually higher to be available for me, and I do not want to see a trade up. I mean, they need some depth on this roster, I think. So for me, Benjamin Solak wrote today at his ESPN piece, quote, where'd I put it? "I'm screaming trade down," he wrote. I'm almost screaming trade down also. And if you want a wide receiver out of the first 2 days that's credible as maybe a starter, then that's my path to getting there.
So a couple things on this. Number one, let's address the wide receiver point. So first 3 rounds is what? 32, 64, 96 picks, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's very possible, Mike. Everything that I've seen, general consensus, there are close to 20 wide receivers considered in the top 100 of this draft. Think about that for a second. That's crazy, right? I mean, so I could see it. Now, everybody's going to have a little different take on that or whatever, but no doubt you could see something like that. Okay. Trading down. 100%. Like, if you give me the option right now, what anything the Bills can do here, I'm trading down. And it's exactly for the reason you said, and exactly what we talked about. So every year I come on this radio station and where I've been talking to you for many years, and we talk, and I say this: there are never 26 first-round grades for any team in this league. Never. I've talked to enough people over the years to tell you a good draft gives you 20 first-round grades. Generally, you're going to get between 15 and 20, okay? So by the time you get to 26, pretty much all your first-round talent graded players are off the board. So if you're going to sit at 26 and you're going to take a guy in that spot, you're basically taking a guy in the first round you do not have a first-round grade on. And as Brandon Beane himself has said, that is unfair to the player, much less the team. You are basically putting an expectation on that player to be a first-round talent when he's not. And I agree with that. Like, if you draft a guy in the first round, oh, first rounder, a talent, but the team kind of doesn't even think he's a first rounder, but you put him in that position now. You don't want to do that. So you'd much rather trade out of that spot. The problem is, Mike, what team is going to trade up with you if they all have this same issue? If they all are thinking, we don't have a first-round grade and a guy at 26, why am I trading into the first round at 26? Unless it's a quarterback and a guy like Ty Simpson. Mm-hmm. He starts falling. Somebody else. Now maybe you get the value. So I agree with you. I just don't know what the path to do it is, because you have to think from other teams' perspectives, who's coming up to take a player at 26. They got to really love them if you don't have 26 guys with first-round grades or even close to it.
Yeah, there's been some speculation about a trade up earlier in the first round, much earlier. 12 and 6, Dallas moving up is one. Arizona maybe up there, but 26 is a spot where you just see teams watch the draft play out first. They want to see, what might somebody falls to them. You don't want to have traded down already. So you tend to only see those kinds of trades once the draft is underway, which it will be.
Well, even Joe Shane said this, and they're picking higher. Joe Shane said, like, okay, we could draft, like, we wouldn't trade down until it got to our pick, is what he said, which is right. I mean, who would do that? You're not going to trade out of your spot until you know exactly what's happening at your spot.
Of course. Quick thought on this draft in general, Sal. Does it seem light to you? That's what a lot of people say.
Yeah, but Mike, I'm really fascinated as a kind of overall football fan and college football fan about how this has evolved, where college guys are going back now because of NIL. And I know they could make more money going into the NFL, but they're making money now. They're making some money. And it's enough for them to say, I have more options. I don't want to go to the Jets. I'm Dante Moore. I want to go back to Oregon, right? There are a good 5 or 6 guys that maybe could have been first, second round guys. Like, look at some of the, websites and rankings and prospects from months ago, and they've decided to go back to college. And I just think it's really impacting how these teams are operating right now and the future of the draft overall.
Well, I want to say we can still be optimistic for next year, because eventually those guys do have to leave. I know this from experience. You can't stay in college forever. I tried. They said you have to go. So that'll eventually come back in our direction.
But you do know that there are other people who stay who are younger who could go, right? You know that math works.
Well, I'm going to have to look into that. All right. Sal, thank you for being a part of our pre-draft special.
All right, you got it, man. Let's find out when this Sabres game is on Sunday.
Let's find out.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Sal. In Western New York, we get to the game no matter what. That means an all-wheel drive SUV you can count on, and that means Honda. Right now, your Upstate Honda dealer has outstanding deals on Honda's all-star lineup, including MVPs such as CR-V, HR-V, and the Honda Pilot. And right here, right now, there's never been a better time to get a great deal on an award-winning Honda SUV. For deals and details, visit upstate.hondadealers.com today. Nate Giri drops by next. More draft talk after the update. As far as we know, the Sabres, well, we still don't have it official. Game 1. They did announce earlier today, as you may have seen or heard, it'll be Sunday. And my guess is that it'll be at 7, but I've been wrong twice already on this one. So take it for what it's worth. This is Mike Schopp back with Nate after the update here on WGR.
Dates and times are starting to trickle in for the Stanley Cup playoffs this weekend. Good news, we do at least know what day the Sabres will begin their playoff campaign against Boston. It'll be Sunday for Game 1, but the time, as for all of the Sunday matchups, will be announced with the rest of the first-round schedule following the completion of tonight's games, which are all for the Western Conference. Sabres did have practice, though, this morning. Alex Tuch, he was given the day off, while Colton Ellis had a maintenance day. And then a good update for Alex Line. He's expected to practice tomorrow. And then looking ahead, Noah Ostlund, he has a chance to play in this first-round series. Sam Carrick, however, does not. And this all according to head coach Lindy Ruff. And the Sabres injury report is brought to you by the Hamburg Overhead Door. Is your garage door injured? Call the experts at Hamburg Overhead Door to get your door healthy again. We do, though, have some official updates for the Stanley Cup playoffs. The first games are going to be on Saturday, with the first one being at 3, Ottawa at Carolina. Then at 5:30, it'll be Dallas hosting Minnesota. And the night will wrap up at 8 o'clock with Pittsburgh hosting Philadelphia. And then in baseball, we had some early afternoon action. The Yankees do trail the Angels 11-4 in the ninth, while the Jays, they fell to Milwaukee 2-1. And then later on tonight, Bisons are at Rochester. First pitch at 6:05, and that game can be heard on our sister station, the Bet 1520. That's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones from Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
I think the Buffalo Bills really need a run-stuffing defensive tackle to plug in the middle of that defensive line. Player I really love, Ohio State's Caden McDonald. He is stout against the run, and that's something the Bills really struggled with last season, 31st in run defense DVOA. I do think he has some pass rush upside, but the lack of proven production is why I do believe he will be there for the Bills, possibly at pick 26.
Thanks, I hate it. No offense to Mina Kimes. I like Mina Kimes very much. I hate the idea. Let's just not go run stuffing. What year is it? Let's just not do that. You're listening to our NFL pre-draft special, which you can also be watching on YouTube. Congrats on that. It's all presented by your Upstate Honda dealers. For great deals, visit your local Upstate Honda dealer today. Nate Giri is next up. Nate, why not start there? Caden McDonald at pick 26. How would you react?
Hate it too. Again, love Mina. I get the whole premise, but I don't know. I'm with you. I was listening to you and Sal in the previous segment and hearing you kind of talk about moving back it's sort of been where my head is aligned over the past, 2 or 3 weeks as, I sort of cram for our draft coverage here at the station. It's like, okay, well, what are the best scenarios? And I'm sure people ask you this all the time, Mike. It's like, well, what do you want the Bills to do? Which is a very different question than what you think the Bills will do. And I think where I've been is I want the Bills to trade back, and I think I've gotten closer and closer to the idea that I think they may try to trade back. And, Sal's point of you're going to need a partner, I think, is important. But one of the areas, too, in this draft, right, is in talking about, maybe there are 20 first-round grades. I think the one thing that you can say at 26 is there might be players that end up falling because of, off-the-field issues. Big, report this week about some off-the-field stuff about Ruben Bain, and does he fall? And what injury pops up over the next, 5 days that could potentially drop a player? I mean, on draft day, the gas mask incident with Laramie Tunsil, who knows what kind of situation plays out. But, Mike, I feel like a trade back is the best case scenario for the Bills, recoup that pick. And I think it opens up a situation where they could probably get a player they really like at 26, at 34 or 38 too. So, that's been my philosophy. And if you feel like you want to take a defensive tackle at 26, what's stopping you from doing that at 34?
Right. What they will do, or what I think, or you think they'll do, and then what I want are always different. It's almost they don't have to be. They don't have to be. And I don't mean that I would be right and they're wrong or anything like that. But, it's interesting how this has grown. You have to be careful to not say this is like how everybody feels. But it has sounded for years now like we want to see the Bills lean into Josh Allen more. however they do that. I mean, speed or wide receivers, of course, just whatever that means, and stop their obsession with like the front seven. But Nate, like this offseason is such where, like Sal said, mostly, especially since DJ Moore, mostly on offense, their personnel is known and pretty good, if not great. And defensively, where there's more turnover, this might be a time where that might make more sense than in other years, or be the thing that somebody like me or yourself should want to do. I just have a hard time getting all the way there. Like it's linebackers and run stuffers and even safeties, and it's just not that exciting. Not that exciting is the point.
No, but I have a hard time getting there myself. Like, they take a linebacker at 26. Okay, they do have a need, but I don't know. I still, and maybe not everyone has gotten to this place, but I think most smart people that I follow, that I read, that I watch, there is still this, positional value phrase that I do think smart teams follow. And, talking about the Arizona Cardinals potentially taking a player that, I'm a big Notre Dame fan, and I love Jeremiah Love, and I think he's the best player in the draft. But the Arizona Cardinals have no business taking a running back, no matter how good that the running back is, third overall. I just, that is, to me, how bad teams stay bad if there isn't that understanding of positional value. And, we may all agree, and like you said, maybe not everybody agrees on this stuff, but, Brandon Beane has largely, outside of Dalton Kincaid, I think, prioritized the value positions in the draft in the first round. And I think for me, I saw a guard the other day in the first round, and I'm going to be on air. I'm going to have to hold back some, potential, I would hate a guard at 26. It just coming out of my mouth sounds bad. So for me, wide receiver, I loved your point about Concepcion or bust, and I kind of feel the same way. There's really not a receiver there outside of Concepcion that I'm really looking at. An edge, and I think if it's one of those two, then I can really probably sell myself and the listeners that was the smart move all along. But, yeah, I look at the guy that in Dan Morgan, who was in this organization as, I don't know if he was the head of pro scouting or assistant GM. He's a general manager in Carolina, and obviously we make jokes about the connections between Buffalo and the Carolina connection, but he the other day said, what would stop me from taking a receiver 3 years in a row in the first round? Is nothing. It's positional value. They are incredibly important pieces, and they're trying to surround their young quarterback with as much talent as possible. And I think I hear you too on you've used your second round pick. Do you really use your first two picks on receivers? I think it's a fair point. But I think it's one where I look around the league and I see teams short of Green Bay, who's the only one I'm really looking at that's divested out of their receiver room, but they could be remaking it in a way as well. The Bills have not really gone all in on investing around Josh Allen. And I like DJ Moore as a player, but if DJ Moore goes out in week 2, they are in the exact same position they were in the end of last season without DJ Moore. So DJ Moore's a nice player, and he adds to this room, and I think he could be a number 1B or, a really high-level number 2 receiver. But they're an injury away from being in the exact same position they were a year before, and I don't know that's a position that Brandon Beane wants to find himself in.
Mm-hmm. With Nate Giri, I'm Mike Schopp. No Bulldog today. It's our annual pre-draft special here on WGR. Jeremiah Love, you brought up with Arizona. Tennessee is often the mocked landing spot for the Notre Dame running back at pick 4. Who's the first team? Is it Tennessee or someone else? Who's the first team on the board where you think that would be your pick, Jeremiah Love? Would it be the Titans? Would it be Washington? Or would it be, this is how Chris Trapasso tends to be and a lot of analysts where I don't care how good he is. Somebody on Twitter today compared him to Barkley. And the tweet that I saw was somebody commenting, I don't think that's the point you really intend to be making. So he's Barkley. Then what? How much did the Giants win with him? So yeah. I don't know. When would you do it?
Yeah, I guess, Washington, I think would be, you could convince yourself that Washington has the roster and the quarterback already in place, right? They went to an NFC championship game 2 years ago with this quarterback as a rookie, and, he's very clearly very good, and Dan Quinn's in place. They've got an established head coach. they're a unique top 5 team. But, I think that they have the running back that they drafted in the 4th or 5th round last year, and kind of comes along nicely. And isn't that exactly what teams are supposed to do, is find the guy in the 4th or 5th round that ends up being, a nice player for you, so you don't have to invest highly in those picks. But, Tennessee, you could also make a case. It's Robert Saleh. They've got a young quarterback, but man, that guy couldn't stay upright last year. Would think offensive line would make a ton of sense for them. To me, I think you see the smart teams who were Kansas City at 9 saying, we need to make an investment at running back. I think they very, very clearly were interested and would love the idea of Jeremiah Love falling to 9. I just think they were realistic about it, and it was happening. So they go out and sign Kenneth Walker, and he's the Super Bowl MVP and everything like that. So to me, Jeremiah Love is a player that probably should be the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th pick, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Okay.
But I think because of how good he is, the team's going to sell themselves. And it would be crazy if it was Arizona. And I think that's one of I think Josh Norris of Sleeper came out with the other day, the percentages of mock drafts of where guys go. And he's one of the most popular players at number 3 being mocked to Arizona. I think it's a crazy move from Arizona's perspective. But if I'm picking one team, Mike, Washington, I think it would be the least egregious if Washington ended up taking Jeremiah Love, because I think he would fit into that group really nicely, into that weapons group. I do like Jaden Daniels quite a bit, and I'm super interested in what that offense looks like this year. Jeremiah Love 5, you could sell me on it.
Good point that Washington could be really good in the NFC Championship 2 years ago. They lose Daniels, and now they're picking 5th. Back to the Bills, Nate, for a couple more minutes here. So Concepcion is kind of it seems, everybody's darling. Is there another wide receiver that should be available at 26 or even a few picks later if they danced around a little bit that you like as much or close to as much enough to justify it?
No. And this is no shot at Denzel Boston, who's probably a nice player. And he might end up even being the best receiver in this draft. You don't know this stuff in advance. Otherwise, we'd all be making a lot more money. But it just feels so. I'm going to digress from this point for a second, because I think this is a really interesting point that John Ledyard had on the station he was on with Jeremy and Joe. And he talked about, at the edge position, he's going to kind of know more about how much power Joe Brady and Jim Leonard have based on if the Bills select an edge at 26, what that edge looks like. Meaning, if it's a big, Zion Young from Mizzou or, Keldrick Falk from Auburn, these bigger guys they already have, right? They got that compression piece in Bradley Chubb. They already had that guy in Greg Rousseau. And I feel the sort of same way about receiver, is if Brandon Beane is sort of making this pick and it's a Brandon Beane player, then it's going to be Denzel Boston. And because he's just kind of shown in the past. When he got here, the first moves at receiver he made were to bring these big, slow, go up and get it kind of receivers. And then we really found Josh Allen was at his best with the exact opposite of those receivers. And yet that's still kind of the asset that they have been identifying and drafting and bringing in. So to me, if Casey Concepcion's not there at 26, everyone else to me is a reach. And there are guys that I love, Mike. I love Ted Hurst from Georgia State. He's 6'4", 200 pounds, can be the boundary receiver, but he also has really good yak ability. And, if you look at his route tree, he's got a lot of screen routes if you're into that sort of thing, which I know this offense is. But Malachi Fields, Chris Bell coming off an ACL, the guy that I'm super interested in, but would never take at 26 is Chris Brazell from Tennessee. Tall, he's got kind of the strider and can be their vertical speed threat on the outside. But I don't know, man. I just kind of keep looking at this, and I'm with you, and I'm 26 is this tough position, because would I love a Casey Concepcion? Yes, I would. But I would, if he's off the board, I'm almost then praying for a trade back, unless, to me, Malachi Lawrence, who's probably my new crush. I've kind of moved from Cassius Hall of A&M to Malachi Lawrence. Joe Marino's really listening to his podcast to really have talked me in to this idea about Malachi Lawrence. But I would want to save Brandon Beane from himself from taking Denzel Boston, because I just think it is Keon Coleman again. And I know maybe that's not fair to him as a player, but I just have scar tissue that I'm not really ready to dive back into a, non-separator catch point guy. And I think that's what Boston is.
Bean has said he needs people to do that. So I'm not sure you'll be here and not available to help him, to hold him back at certain times. I think they needed that person when they made the DJ Moore trade, but they might have been sick. I don't know what happened that day. Anyway, so you'll be on next Thursday night, you're saying, right?
Yes, I'm sure Zach will be along. We'll have Derek Kramer as well. Pre-draft, draft coverage, I should say, Thursday night, Friday night, and into Saturday. And, looking forward to it. This is my favorite time of year because it's kind of the only thing that reminds me of school, Mike, where, I spend 3 months cramming for a final, and then the final is over, and all of a sudden you're like, what do I do with this information in my head? But, looking forward to it. And, I think we start 7 o'clock right after you guys on Thursday night.
We'll see if you can duck the Sabres. We'll see what happens with the schedule once we get it. Thank you, Nate.
Thanks, Mike.
Nate Giri with us on the West Shore Hotline, our annual pre-draft special. Joe DiBiase coming up at 5, Jeremy White at 5:30, talking draft. Slip in some other thoughts here in between after this break. I'm Mike Schopp, and this is WGR.
If you want more miles per gallon and less pain at the pump, check out Honda, America's most fuel-efficient full-line automaker, featuring Honda's award-winning hybrid lineup, including Civic Hybrid, Accord Hybrid, and CR-V Hybrid, with all three making the Car and Driver 10 Best list. So whether it's a trip across country for vacation or just across town for practice, Honda helps make your ride more affordable. For deals that are easy on gas and easy to afford, see your Upstate Honda dealer today.
NFL pre-draft special. Sad not to have Bulldog here for it, or, as it turns out, for the start of the playoffs. But he'll be back with us on Tuesday. That's the plan. The pre-draft special here on WGR and on YouTube, presented by your Upstate Honda dealers. For great deals, visit your local Upstate Honda dealer today. Got baseball on in here. They say this all the time about baseball. You see something new every day. I don't think I do. I think it's one of those where when you see something new, you think, oh, I see something new every day. Then most days you don't. You never think about that line. But I think probably what I saw in the Pirates game today I had not seen before, which was O'Neal Cruz of the Pirates swinging the bat, losing his grip on the bat, and the bat landed in right field. I don't think I've ever seen a bat fly that far in a game. It hit, so they've got protective netting up all the way down the right field line, and I assume the left field line as well in Pittsburgh, maybe everywhere now. And this bat flew so far, all the way like out over the first base coach, and then off that netting, bounced toward right field. It stayed foul. So I'm a little generous saying right field. Is that right field? Or is that just foul territory? But way past first base. I mean, it's almost like you'd have to want to do that. I'm just going to right now be prepared to throw the bat as far as I can, just, to see how well I do. It's only one pitch. So Cruz, he's an enigma. The Pirates are decent. They lost this game today to Washington, but this is a ton of talent, this guy. This is the guy who played center that first game and, botched a couple of plays for the Pirates. I saw him today not run out a pop fly, and it dropped, and it was a single instead of a double. Really interesting, super big, like 6'7". They can't really find a position for him, it seems, and now he's throwing his bat into right field. Well, not on purpose, but I don't think I've seen that before. Sneaky Joe is in the building and will join me after the break to continue on the draft. I'm Mike Schopp. This is WGR.
In Western New York, we get to the game no matter what. That means an all-wheel drive SUV you can count on, and that means Honda. And right now, your Upstate Honda dealer has outstanding deals on Honda's all-star lineup, including MVPs like CR-V, HR-V, and the Honda Pilot. And right here, right now, there's never been a better time to get a great deal on an award-winning Honda SUV. For deals and details, visit upstate.hondadealers.com today.
We don't have the full schedule for this weekend's Stanley Cup playoffs, but we've got a little bit of it, including when the Sabres will be playing. That is going to be Sunday when they host Boston for Game 1. But the time and for all of the Sunday matchups is going to be announced along with the rest of the first-round schedule. Following the completion of tonight's games, those, though, are all for Western Conference teams. Sabres did have practice this morning. Alex Tuck was given the day off while Colton Ellis had a maintenance day. Bit of a good injury update for Alex Lyon. He is expected to practice tomorrow. And then looking ahead for once the series begins, Noah Ausland appears to have a chance to play, while Sam Carrick does not. That according to head coach Lindy Ruff. And the Sabres Injury Report is brought to you by Hamburg Overhead Door. Is your garage door injured? Call the experts at Hamburg Overhead Door to get your door healthy again. For the Stanley Cup playoffs, what we do officially know is the Saturday schedule. It'll begin at 3 with Ottawa at Carolina, 5:30 Dallas hosts Minnesota, and then following that, to round out the night, Pittsburgh will host Philadelphia at 8. Some early afternoon baseball from today. The Yankees go down to the Angels 11-4, while the Jays fall to Milwaukee 2-1. The Bisons are at Rochester tonight. First pitch for that game is at 6:05 and can be heard on our sister station, the Bet 1520. And we keep on rolling here, streaming live on YouTube, our annual draft special. It is going until 6:30. We are getting the latest with just a week before round one. We've already had some guest appearances from Sal Capacio and Nate Giri, and we'll keep that rolling here. Joe DiBiase coming up next, Jeremy White later on in this hour. And the draft special is brought to you by your Upstate Honda dealers. For great deals, visit your local Upstate Honda dealer today. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones from Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
On the play fake. Late pressure coming into the end zone. Caught and touchdown by Concepcion.
Tigers back off. Reed tries to make a play in the move. Throws it end zone. Touchdown. KC Concepcion from 15 yards out.
I think he is just a guy that is going to help in offense, no question. And I actually compared him. He's somewhere between Jaden Reed and Stephon Diggs.
16.5 career sacks for Howell, the senior from Kansas City. And here comes another one by Howell. That's 17.5.
Cassius Howe, the pass rusher from Texas A&M, who was the SEC Defensive Player of the Year this past season. He is an excellent pass rusher. His ability to bend the edge really stands out. And under this new defensive system led by Jim Leonard, I think he'd be a great fit for Buffalo at 26.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog on WGR.
Welcome back. It's our annual NFL pre-draft special here on WGR and on YouTube, presented by your Upstate Honda dealers. For great deals, visit your local Upstate Honda dealer today. I'm Mike Schopp. Bulldog is not with us, but who is with us is Sneaky Joe, forced into action.
Yes.
A sense of duty and loyalty.
Yes.
In studio at that.
Yeah, why not?
I would enjoy their show if it weren't so early. I'm sure I would like it.
I mean, you got to be in by the 9 o'clock hour, right? You got to be up by then.
What happens to
Most
me,
days.
it's embarrassing, all right? But I'm up 6 to 7. Then
you go back to sleep?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not every day, I want to say.
So you're missing the meat of the show in the middle.
I guess so.
Yeah. Well, at least 6 o'clock, though.
No excuses.
No. You're not a guy to stay up?
You know what?
Once
Actually,
you're up, stay up? That can't be good to be breaking up sleep like that.
Oh,
all the
I'm
time.
sure you're right. I'm
It
sure
can't
you're
be
right.
good.
But staying up doesn't feel great either.
Yeah.
It's that I get text from you like today.
Yeah.
In the 6 o'clock hour.
Yes.
And that did keep me up.
Okay, well, you didn't respond from like 7 to 8, so I thought,
There it is.
Yeah, that could have been that. I mean, you're halfway to, what did Kramer do? Like 20-minute nap segments, like 20 times a day instead of ever going to sleep?
Oh, God.
Just go that. Pull that off.
I'm in trouble because I make every excuse for, like, staying up late.
Uh-huh.
Football was my excuse, right? Oh, then
Every
fantasy.
football game.
I got to see every fantasy. I got to stay every football game. Then football ends.
Niners-Cardinals, it's a 20-point game, but I got to stay up to see if this guy gets 4 more points.
It's not even like I feel like I'm being forced to. I just want to.
Yeah, right.
And then there's a wind-down time, and then it's 1.
All right.
And then football ends, and I make up some other excuse. Now the playoffs, and the Sabres are in it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in trouble. I mean, I'll be up. I'll watch the late games now.
Oh, I know. That's going to be, man, especially for me, like the 10 o'clock, maybe not even that. I mean, you're going to get 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock starts that are going into double and triple overtime that don't involve the Sabres. Like, am I going to stay up until midnight for whatever, Flyers and Penguins, who you're not going to see to the conference finals anyway, but they're in double overtime, and it's 11 o'clock. I mean, it's going to happen. That could happen to the Sabres, too. So
I worked 5 to 9 a.m. shifts when the Sabres were in the finals in 99.
Okay, so Game 6 would have been...
I was at Game 6.
Okay.
It was a Saturday at least.
Oh, okay, you're good
but
then.
I don't know how I did it because I loved it. I mean, who doesn't?
Right.
Staying up late for those games. And
definitely.
It was still kind of new then to have access to late-night games, you know? Like, really, that wasn't always true growing up. Some of those...
Yeah.
In the 80s, you didn't get to watch the Kings.
Right.
Unless they were playing Edmonton, maybe. But you didn't
if you're
ever
going to
get
get a hockey
the
night
games.
in Canada, basically, then that would be it.
Yeah. That was the only way. So by then, like, oh, this is the best. I can watch all these games. I'm going to do it. I don't know how I managed to get up at 4:15 in the morning the next day.
Pure adrenaline.
Must be. Well, to force in a segue, thinking about your show in the morning and your interaction with Bills fans, how much adrenaline do you have for this draft? To me, it's waned.
Yeah, it feels forced, almost forced adrenaline. That's not to say I'm not interested in it. Just how much is this also the Sabres? The juice that you'd have for this draft is you only get so much bandwidth. It's being paid attention to the other side, and I also don't think it's bandwidth. Yeah,
Listen to that.
I don't think it's helping that this draft is not being portrayed as a typically or as an interesting draft anyway, or a deep draft. Didn't Scott Barrett say it's like the worst draft you say? Like, as bad as you think it is, it's worse?
Yes. That's
yeah.
what he said.
Like, it is not really the draft to be super excited about. I'm still very interested in the receiver position as typically you would be. Running back early on in the draft, that doesn't really pertain to the Bills. I think you still do have the storylines, but I think they're not really being an interesting quarterback debate. I'm not really into the Ty Simpson, how high is he going to go part of this. I mean, unless a team's going to come up, trade into the first round, that could be interesting. But,
right, you might not be into him, but that possibility right there could be worth watching and thinking about next Thursday night.
Yeah, I mean, and that could be 26 easily. The Cardinals or whoever. I mean, the Dolphins. You could pick a couple teams early in that top 10 to move up.
By the way, does it interest you at all that these kinds of trades, maneuvering around the draft, don't start happening like yet? I think for the Bills pick, I said this to Sal an hour ago, that you kind of, with teams that pick later, they tend to want to see what's happened. And maybe there's somebody, we'd trade up if X.
Right.
And you can't know that yet. But it might be, you might get a better price if you're, say, Arizona. Making a trade like that now.
Because you'd be taking on risk of, like, why am I doing it? Am I doing it for Ty Simpson? I'm taking on risk that I'm going to make this trade, and he's not going to be there.
And you're also showing your cards. No pun intended.
Yes, you are. Right. You're telling anybody else that might want Ty Simpson, how high do I have to go? If you're a Team X that might want him, you don't know what that answer is right now. The Cardinals, by trading right now, would give you the answer. Okay, I've got to go. They traded to 26. I got to get to 25. I know the answer to the test now. And I also think that's part of, you might not like this. Like, I don't think teams really ever trade down or trade up as a rule. They're all doing it because they have an opinion on players.
Yeah.
And for that, you're not going to ever get these trades until draft night. Unless it's really early. Right, like the Jets did it. They traded up to 3 in 18, a month before? But that would be because they had enough. There's only so many picks they have to predict to go up to 3.
Was that Indianapolis?
Yes.
Like Zach Wilson?
No, that's Darnold.
Oh.
Right? Remember, that's weeks before the draft that they moved to 3.
That was Darnold.
Yeah,
that's right.
That was
18.
for Darnold.
Sure.
Yeah.
One thing I read, too, this week was a Peter Schrager tweet referencing something a GM told him that, watch, this year positional values are out the window. I don't understand the logic there. If that's because the draft isn't as good, shouldn't it matter more? The logic for me is, well, I don't have as many ideas that I like.
Yeah.
So I need to understand that, all right, if I need an edge rusher, maybe he's not as good a prospect as you might have been 2 years ago or something.
Yeah.
But I still need it. I feel like that's backwards.
But when I hear it right away, it sounds to me like, well, you've got to have an elite player at the non-valuable positions to make that case, because I would see that as, okay, I'm defending the idea of drafting a running back in the top 5 because I don't think there's an elite edge rusher available. I don't think there's an elite receiver, an elite left tackle that's available at a position that is paid higher and you're getting way more savings if you hit on that pick on a rookie contract versus a running back or a tight end or a safety would probably qualify as this as well. That guy is going to be one of the best in the league. Like, Jeremiah Love is going to be one of the 5 best running backs in football, and I don't think any of these edge rushers are going to be like top 25 at their position. You would have to really believe, I think there's a huge talent disparity.
Could you defend that? If Brandon Beane, say, randomly, hypothetically, called your show the morning after the draft and told you that, we just didn't think, I'm not sure he would ever be quite this blunt, maybe, but we didn't like any of the other players at these, considered more premium positions, so we did this instead. I don't know. I'd blast him for that.
Yeah, I still think the cap part of it and the savings part of it, especially with running back. I mean, not that the Bills are in that market, but you're not saving anything the second you do that. Tight end, you're not really saving almost anything when you do that. The guys that are at the top end or even the second tier of those positions are not that different than what the high-end rookie would be making that you're picking in the first round versus this is the whole, receiver conversation in the first place. I'm drafting one because I'm giving him a couple $1 million and the best ones in the league cost 40. That's edge rusher 2, that's left tackle. So I'm with you. Like, I think that the positional value, the market at those positions, the importance of it should matter a lot. Like, everyone's playing a game, and I think the draft has become as much about get the best player available as save the most money that you could save, because everybody's spending to the cap. And if the running backs or the tight end is better than the receiver or the edge rusher, that doesn't mean I'm actually saving more money by hitting on that pick, though.
I'll tell you another one, by the way, that I don't really get, these terms that get thrown around the draft. Teams having whatever number of first-round grades that's less than 32.
Yeah. And it's always less than 32.
It's always less than 32.
It's never 32.
It's never been as many as 32 to his knowledge
No.
since covering the Bills. Why wouldn't it always be 32?
All right.
Exactly.
Should we be redefining what a first-round grade is if it never is 32?
I understand the point that you're comparing to other years, right?
Yeah.
So a first-round pick for you is this, and I don't have as many of them this year, but so what? I mean, I guess it applies if you are moving out, because there aren't. Last year I had 25 first-round grades. This year I have 15. So I have higher incentive to trade if the other guy does too, whatever. But I feel like there should be 32 players. My top 32 are first-round grades necessary.
Or at the least, you'd want it so that it averages out to 32 over the course of a few years, right? I wouldn't mind if you said this year I've only got 23 first-round grades, but the next year you come back to me and say you had 45. Like, all right, I'm averaging something around what the first round is. Maybe they just need to lower their standard. That's it.
Yes.
Just lower your definition for what a first-round grade is. That's it.
Did Coleman have a first-round grade? If they had picked him at 32,
they traded down, I'm sure.
If they had, if they had picked him at 32, Carolina doesn't want a deal. Then we would have probably found out that he did.
If they one more time, if they had moved
down,
if
they had picked him at 32, they'd already moved to 32.
One trade instead of 2. Yeah.
Then maybe they would have maybe they would have dodged the question.
Well, unless again, if you only had 10 first-round grades, by then maybe he second-round grade to third-round grade we're into already by the end of round 1.
Getting convoluted. That's definitely my fault. Is it KC, Concepcion, or bust for you for your show in terms of receivers?
I don't know.
Not or bust. Sorry, or pass
for the receiver position
in round 1.
I am not treating it as he's going to be there. I mean, I guess it's the draft and, it's a crapshoot. You don't know who's going to like who. But why is he falling to 26? Can someone explain to me how that's happening? Everyone seems to love the guy. Like the personality, the how he talked about his stuttering at the draft. Everybody loved that. This letter today to general managers. Everywhere you look, you watch the film or the numbers, he's the best separator in the draft. He runs amazing routes. He can play all over the place. Am I really to believe that his drop problem is so bad that he's going to be the 5th receiver taken just because of that? Like, I can't understand why he's falling to the Bills. So I guess I'm not really thinking about them picking him a lot. The one thing I would say, though, about receiver is, aren't there 5 guys that all feel like they should go before the Bills? And what are the odds that all of them are going to be taken? Because
I don't think they're that good.
Any of them?
The odds.
The odds that
I think the Bills,
that one of them would still be there?
Yes, I would say from looking at mock drafts, I'm not doing my own independent research on these players. Need I say so? I would say the odds of the Bills being able to draft wide receiver 5 at pick 26 are greater than 50-50.
Yes, that's how I feel about it too. That one of, and I don't know, it will not be Carnell Tate. I think everyone's pretty much on board that it wouldn't be him. But couldn't it be any of the next 4? And I guess, am I being offensive to Denzel Boston by not including him? But for this, I'm not. Jordan Tyson, Mekhi Lemon, Omar Cooper, and KC Concepcion. One of them, or all of those guys are gone? Like, I'm with you. Like, any mock draft I see, it feels like one of them at least is there. So that doesn't mean they'll pick them, but I think the Bills will be tested. I think they'll really be tested on that position. That doesn't sound like the trade down position to me. Like, that might be edge rusher. That might be a linebacker where there's this big group, and, the difference between 26 and 40 or 50 is not that big at that position. Whereas, I don't know, receiver kind of feels like you're approaching on a tier break right around where the Bills are picking.
Sneaky Joe is here. It's our NFL pre-draft special. I'm Mike Schopp. Bulldog is off until Tuesday. Jeremy White will join me at 5:30 to talk some more draft. How good do you think Fernando Mendoza is?
How good was Derek Carr?
How good was Derek Carr? Well, that's a question I could spend a little bit of time on.
Was he good?
Was Derek Carr?
Was he good? He was good, right?
He was good.
He was good. I would say he was good, and I want like a little bit of a question mark when I say that.
Good-ish.
I think he'll be a good quarterback. He seems to have all the tools. I don't think anything that is crazy, right? Like, he doesn't have all-world arm strength or athleticism or size, but it just kind of feels like he checks every one of these boxes. I guess the problem might be he's going to a team that I don't know how much I really want to trust them for getting it right. I mean, how bad's Geno Smith? I think Geno Smith's pretty good. And he went there, and it was a total disaster because they just had no infrastructure around him. So I don't know if he's set up to succeed, but if he got to the right environment and the Raiders can figure it out, I think he'll be a pretty good quarterback. He'll be Derek Carr. He'll be Bo Nix. Like, he'll be a guy that's good, but I'm not going to be terrified of if I ever play him in a playoff game. That'd be my guess.
But you do see those caliber of players in playoff games.
And win them.
And
That's
sometimes
true.
win them.
That's right.
He
would be a guy, I would bet, that you'd see in the playoffs, and it would be annoying if Josh Allen lost to him in a playoff game.
Well, when has that ever happened?
Lost to a quarterback that was annoying. They lost.
Was annoying.
Yeah.
Not every one of these, but this one.
No,
this last one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a new everything though. Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah.
You give me the number 1 overall pick. Everybody's number 1 overall pick.
Yep.
Well, maybe not Dan Orlovsky. Almost everybody's
99.9
number 1 pick. I've got. Is he a top 5 running back? Not everybody. Not more than 5 can be top 5 running backs. And Genti did not have a good rookie year, but still.
No.
I've got the best tight end in the league.
Yep.
Maybe I can.
Kubiak will be a big test here.
Maybe I can score.
Yeah. Yeah. It could be good. It's one of those franchises that I really need to see it before. Raiders, Jets, and Browns. You got to show me before I'm willing to buy in that you're going to have the answers. Like, those are franchises I got to see it before I'm willing to believe in you.
That's where we're different because I'm always expecting the Jets to be good and maybe the Browns.
But you are the only one I ever hear that's expecting the Jets to be good.
I know. I'm doing it again.
What? This year?
Yes.
This year? Why?
Yes.
Because Geno Smith,
who you've said your love for him already. You've mentioned that already.
I know.
I've got a top 5 running back in Brees Hall.
Who, I mean, come on. The running.
They can't all be top 5.
If the running back is the second thing out of your mouth about why a team's going to be good, that team's not going to be good.
Well, okay. I didn't mean to rank him like that. Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
Mason Taylor.
I mean, this is kind of some version of this for me with the Chargers. I will buy in every year, and every year they will let you down. And this year, I'm probably going to have to let myself do that over the next 4 months too.
Joe, you're one of my top fantasy buddies.
Yeah.
It's likewise this draft, maybe not as bad. With fantasy in mind, one running back in the first round, probably that's not unusual. One quarterback, not hugely relevant for most fantasy formats, but okay. And these wide receivers, and we've had a few years of this where you've got a half a dozen or so options there. What, without showing me necessarily your hand,
smoke screen.
What do you think rookie drafts will start? I mean, I think I have one next Sunday.
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing will be when's the second running back get picked and where does he get picked? Because in a rookie draft, like right now, of course, Jeremiah Love is going to be like either the number one pick or at least second. Like depends on maybe on your format, but he's going to go at the top. And then all those receivers, they should go high enough to where Lemon, Tyson, Tate, Cooper, Concepcion, Boston, like those guys are going to be interesting at least. I think the tight end is going to be highly picked, right? Almost no matter what. Like people will get excited about him. He's really fast, right? And Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon. I mean, if he went to like Mike McDaniel, like there are teams where that could be really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what you're going to do with the second running back. And it's going to depend on destination and also how late does the guy go. I mean, is the next running back picked the other Notre Dame guy?
Maybe.
That like no one ever really saw play in college that much because he was behind Jeremiah Love. And if he's a third round pick to a team that has a guy who's kind of established but maybe not fully established, like I think that's going to be the position where someone's going to have to make a call. And all right, I'm buying in. I'm buying in on this third round running back that may or may not take over the job on his team.
I don't know numbers here, but it seems that there aren't as many teams that have obvious openings this year. Like last year, as bad as they might have been expected to be, the Browns stood out as, well, Nick Chubb aged out and they have Jerome Ford, but whoever they pick could be exciting.
Like,
and what do? They pick two guys, just like they did quarterback, actually. But Judkins and Dylan Sampson, right?
Yep.
And, Judkins got hurt. But that was starting to hum when he got hurt against
it was
the Bills.
looking really good. Like if Jadarian Price went with early third-round pick to the Bengals, how interesting is he? Like that team's got a guy, but not like a guy.
That's a really tough hypothetical.
Yeah.
I think for Dynasty, like a rookie draft fantasy we're talking about, he's live. Because Chase Brown is how good? Right?
Exactly.
I think he'd be live.
That's why I think like that's going to be to the eye of the beholder. Like how much are you willing to bet that the second, third, fourth rookie running back taken is going to unseat a guy like of a Chase Brown caliber?
Right.
And there'll be a couple of those.
But in best ball for this year, it'd be a tough bet.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are teams where
what would be the most exciting? I mean, really, because there are teams that are going to be too far back to go Jeremiah Love. Like Minnesota's not picking Jeremiah Love. But if Minnesota takes a third round running back, like that could be hot. And there would be a couple of teams
That's
like
a good example. Yeah. I mean, if Tennessee doesn't take Love, then they could be this team too on day 2.
Yeah.
And all right, well, what does that mean? Tony Pollard, like what is the plan there? Because teams tend to mostly want to go slow with those running backs unless they pick them early. But even then, Bijan Robinson, what happened? He split carries.
Lost a lot of touchdowns over
top 10
over
pick.
a
He
couple of years.
split carries down the middle
as
a rookie. So it's precarious. All right, the Sabres, of course, Joe. I know you're excited about that. Nice hat.
Thank you. Yeah, I've laid down my sword. Sabes is fine. It's in my vocabulary now.
Sabes.
I fought against it
you're
for a
okay
while,
with it?
but when's the first time you heard Sabes?
You can live with yourself?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Not that recently.
Okay.
20 years ago? No.
Not the 80s.
I don't think
we were
anybody
walking around in the
the
83 playoffs talking about Sabes.
No. I don't think I ever did until much later than that. I went to a playoff game in 84.
Okay.
We got killed.
Against
Quebec. 6-2. Game 2. Best of 5. Great season. You rank those Sabre seasons by points. 84 is a 100-point season, I think. And they went out in 3. 3 games, you're done.
Right.
4 days, I believe, because they played back-to-back.
Is that 1 through 16?
Nope. Adams division.
So it's
2
post
versus 3.
1 through 16?
Yes.
Okay.
2 versus 3, Adams division, Sabres home, lose. That's it. And it's probably in 4 days because they did play back-to-back then.
Okay.
Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, you're done.
Wow.
Like baseball.
Yeah, they
It'd be
will
like
not.
that.
They do not do that anymore.
That's over. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, of course.
Sneaky Joe. Our pre-draft special continues. Jeremy White will be along next. In Western New York, we get to the game no matter what. That means an all-wheel drive SUV you can count on. And that means Honda. Right now, your Upstate Honda dealer has outstanding deals on Honda's all-star lineup, including MVPs such as CR-V, HR-V, and the Honda Pilot. And right here, right now, there's never been a better time to get a great deal on an award-winning Honda SUV. For deals and details, visit upstate.hondadealers.com today.
details, but we do have some on the Stanley Cup playoff schedule for this weekend. We do know for the Sabres, they're going to begin their campaign hosting Boston on Sunday for Game 1. The time, though, for all the Sunday matchups is going to be announced along with the rest of the first-round schedule following the completion of tonight's games, which are all Western Conference. What we do know, though, in full for the playoffs, first games are on Saturday, and the first one is at 3 o'clock, Ottawa at Carolina. Then 5:30, it's Dallas hosting Minnesota. Followed by that, to round out the night, Pittsburgh hosting Philly at 8. Going to, though, the Sabres for today, they did have practice this morning. Alex Tuch was given the day off while Colton Ellis had a maintenance day. And some good news on Alex Lyon. He is expected to practice tomorrow. And then looking ahead, Noah Ostlund does have a chance to play in the first-round series. Sam Carrick, however, does not. And this is according to head coach Lindy Ruff. And the Sabres Injury Report is brought to you by your Hamburg Overhead Door. Is your garage door injured? Call the experts at Hamburg Overhead Door to get your door healthy again. And then we also had some early afternoon baseball. The Yankees do go down to the Angels 11-4, while the Jays, they fell to Milwaukee 2-1. And then in just about a half hour, the Bisons are at Rochester. First pitch at 6:05, and that can be heard on our sister station, the Bet 1520. That's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
Jordan Tyson right now is my number 28 overall player, so I think he's right in that striking distance of the Bills. My range comparisons for him go from Jacoby Myers to Keenan Allen. Like, he's that type of fluid, inside, outside, savvy route runner, but not going to give you much after the catch at all. Going to catch pretty much everything. Will make the difficult grabs. Will make the diving catches at his feet. Will not have a lot of drops, and is just not someone that you're going to push the ball vertically down the field with.
Chris Trapasso, who joins us Wednesdays to talk NFL draft. Mike Schopp here. Bulldog is away. Talking about Jordan Tyson. And is there too much of a Khalil Shakir overlap in how that sounds to think the Bills might be intrigued? That seems to be a little bit of a fall for Tyson based on mock drafts I've seen, if he were to make it to the Bills pick at 26. I hope they trade down. I think it's obvious they should want to, but it might not be easy to do it. Next up on our annual pre-draft special here on WGR and on YouTube is Jeremy White. And Jeremy, have you talked about these receivers at all on your show?
You know, occasionally it comes up.
Does it? Callers get through, and
everyone's always wanting to talk about the wide receivers, it seems.
What is the state of play at that position this year versus last year for you? DJ Moore happened. Mm-hmm. Is there less urgency?
Sure. They made the DJ Moore trade, which was the Amari Cooper trade, but they made it way, way earlier for a player that they hope has a lot more mileage left, right? So they made their big veteran trade. So I think it's less urgency, obviously, but at the same time, you know, they are they counting on Keon Coleman the way they talk they are? Are they counting on Josh Palmer to be healthy? Are they counting on Dalton Kincaid to be healthy, right? They've got a couple hope this works out kind of scenarios, and they are still not really in a good spot from that room's standpoint on having somebody cheap that is going to give them like a really big surplus. When we got to this offseason, Mike, I thought there were two lessons to be learned. One, you have to be better, and two, you should want to be better longer and save money doing it. And the DJ Moore trade only got you one of those. You got better, no doubt about that. But you're not saving money doing it.
There probably is no doubt. I think I'd have to say that. I think Moore is good. I'll put good above fine, because fine sounds to some like an insult, and maybe it is one. So I'll put him at good. I don't think great, though. It's the same thing. It's like, well, put him with Josh Allen. The excuses made for DJ Moore every year have been, like Allen Robinson used to be, where he just hasn't had a good enough quarterback to work with. Well, that changed last year, and I would have to admit he got some love last season and had some big plays for the Bears. But he wasn't their, like, classic number one guy or anything like that. And, maybe that's not his fault, because Burden is good and Loveland came to matter, and, that's how that goes sometime. I don't know. I'm not over the moon about this idea. I think it's a lot of money. And here we are coming up on the draft, Jeremy, and, I don't have a second-round pick right now, but I still want one.
Well, I would like to. I'm up for a conversation about trading down because I think that the trade down industrial complex, if I could use that, I think that they should be there should be a split into two. Do you want to trade down to add picks? Okay. What about the pick slide? Like let's talk about the exact same trade the Bills did and forget about the people in the Worthy and Coleman trade. You trade down 6 spots and you move up 20 spots in a later round. Does that still jive with the whole trading down is always good mindset? Because I'd like to think that if you are a true trade down for picks, for lottery picks, then it should not be something that hits the same way.
Well, I think in the terms of the Chiefs trade, they didn't do that well by the numbers. They did okay. They basically did closer to a neutral move, which I think that's what you're laying out, that possibility. And that is probably somewhat a function of that they thought the wide receivers available were pretty flat. So however many they would have been open to at 32, they didn't get to pick Worthy by this trade. They didn't get to pick Ricky Pearsall by the trade. They didn't want Leggett badly enough to take him and then pushed it to Coleman. So that was my only again, we don't have to stick on this example, but my complaint about that trade had nothing to do with that it was the Chiefs. Sure. It was that they didn't get rich enough by making that trade, and that you can't make trades that aren't available to you. Right. What I didn't like about the second one, as I've said many times, is they had all day Friday to do it again. Because there were still half a dozen receivers that people liked about equally, and I think they were just kind of out of the trading down business at that point.
Well, I guess the point I'm getting at is the trade down idea. Everyone that loves to trade down to add picks is because you can't beat the draft. Nobody beats the draft. There's randomness, and thinking that you know the player at 21 versus 28 versus 35 who's going to be better. You don't know, and I would agree with that. But I think that teams have kind of wised up to it, and teams that are trading up now are trading up in double pick swaps. And basically what you now have is, let's say there are 4 picks involved in a trade. Do you think you have a better chance with the first and fourth pick or the second and the third pick that are moved, right? If the picks are 26, 34, 62, and 91, what are the best 2 picks? And why
What's
would
the better
anybody,
side?
Right. Why would anybody that is of the belief that you can't beat the draft buy into the idea that, actually the middle 2 have more value than the outside 2, right? If I don't know the difference between 28 and 35, why on earth would I think I know the difference between 91 and 73?
Mm-hmm. Well, you have what could play into that. You have position strengths and weaknesses.
Sure.
What are my needs? And maybe offensive guard, right, is one possibility for the Bills this year, but I don't want to do it at 26, even just for optics, for money. So I'd want to be on the other side of that fence, perhaps, in that trade, depending on what I want.
Maybe.
I might think, the whole grades thing that I struggle with is I've got so few first-round grades, but I've got a lot of thirds. So, okay, I can justify that move from that standpoint as well. But it's a good question. I want to think the Bills could trade, in a vacuum, trade their 1 for a 2 and a 3. Then I'm adding a dart throw. And that's a day 2 pick, not a super long shot. But I don't know if I have a partner, Jeremy. As I've said a few times today in different conversations, when you're picking at 26, you tend to have to wait until the draft is underway to see if the other team wants the player that you could pick, that wants to make the move. So I can't usually do this kind of thing now, and that's too bad. But then in general, is that going to be a range where teams are interested? Like that. We've been in drafts where anybody want this pick and nobody says a word, and right. Maybe that's what the Bills could face.
Could be. Have you started to think about the idea of Arizona and Ty Simpson?
Sure.
Because Brad Spielberger of Pro Football Focus, formerly of Pro Football Focus, had a point about Arizona and whether or not they should do it. Now, I love this point. I think it's worth talking about for the evolution of the draft and the evolution of these contracts. And if you like to get into the weeds on this stuff, it for a long time has been suggested that trading into the first round for a quarterback is a good idea because you get the 5th-year option. And Brad's point was, if you're Arizona, why trade up? You won't ever use the 5th-year option on your quarterback. You almost never do. Mm-hmm. If the guy's good, you're going to extend him. And if he's not good, you never get to year 5. Even Jordan Love, who sat for 2 years when drafted by the Packers, he never played in a fifth-year option. So this idea that the Cardinals should be this candidate to move to 26 where the Bills are, I feel like it'd be a mistake for them. And now if I'm the Bills, I'm just, am I sliding 2 picks, 3 picks, 4 picks to add something in the later rounds? Maybe that could work. I also tend to think that the trade down idea, not that I'm against it, but I like making the case against it just because I feel like everybody's so in love with it that you get credit just for doing it, regardless of your results. And I think part of the reason that people fall in love with it is because we've had 3 months to think about 14 different players they could take at 26. And when they come on the clock at 26, how many of those players are you going to see? 10 of them? So you're going to think, well, all these guys are good. They're all totally worth this 26th pick. So drop down 5 spots, and I'll still get any one of them. But, of course, the results are what matter. And I think you can make the case that the Bills are maybe 1 or 2 moves away from, had they moved up at a different time in a different year, it might have been better off than dropping down and getting additional picks and additional players that haven't made a difference.
I appreciate the effort when it comes to trading down. It's one of those where if your Twitter is like mine, everybody will advocate for it.
Everybody.
But then you'll turn on the draft itself, and nobody will. Oh, whoever it is, Mel or whoever it is, you're watching at the draft. Oh, you had to go get this guy. The way teams talk. Yeah. The shows themselves will talk the way teams talk about why they traded up. Somebody has to want to do that. What is your favorite idea, if there is one, that is not a receiver at 26? What's the best idea?
Speedy, bendy pass rusher. And there are a couple names here. The guy lately that I've been keyed on by, whether it's Chris Trapasso or Joe Marino, Malachi Lawrence, UCF, offers a lot of that stuff. Cassius Howell. I don't know what to think of what this defense is going to look like. And while nose tackle could be it, somebody that's in the middle, that could be it. I'm of the belief that if you can get one of those guys that makes a big difference, great. But they do move around a lot. And, there's some guys on the free agent market you can get. I'm going to mention DJ Reader here, who will just sign somewhere for $3 to $5 million. Like a solid veteran starting guy at that position goes for $3 to $5 to $7 million. And other positions, that same guy goes for 12. So the guys that stick in the league for a long time, they tend to be kind of cheap. You can find bodies to plug in there. The Bills used to kind of operate with the idea that they could get by with some plug-and-play guys throughout their team, and they still do. Guard used to be this for a while before the last couple seasons when they had some guys locked in there. So I think edge rusher. I think I'd be shooting for the moon. Somebody that goes at the end of the first round that can be their DPR, designated pass rusher, seems to be a buzz phrase around now.
Oh.
And I'll take it. For years we've been talking about how they can't get off the field on third down against a Mahomes or a Burrow or a Bo Nix. We could talk about stopping the run till we're blue in the face. They do not lose games in the playoffs because they can't stop the run. It doesn't happen. The thing that happens is they don't get to the quarterback. So these games in fourth quarters turn into shootouts because you have Josh Allen. And if there's a designated pass rusher and he won't play every down, I don't care. Give me the guy that's what they thought Von Miller was going to be without the $120 million contract. I know that's hard to find. He's a Hall of Famer. But I'd be shooting for that model. Somebody that does exactly that is exactly what I want this defense to probably get.
Works for me. Talked about this with Sal earlier. I hope their stop the run messaging is just what they think people want to hear. It's going to be a different defense with a lot of new players and a new coach. But totally. The sneaky, not that it never really was sneaky, but in certain conversations it would seem sneaky to say, well, actually, their pass defense is great, and their defense is good or great, and there you go. There's pretty much the whole formula. All right. Thanks for staying up late.
Yeah.
Any questions for me?
When is the Sabres game?
Sunday at 7.
You think it's 7? It's 7 or 1, right? Are we at 7 or 1? But mostly 7?
I am. But I'm tired of guessing and having it move on me.
Is it an ESPN game? If it's an ESPN game, it's 7.
Yes.
On Sunday.
Well, we have this announcer who says he's going to be here for it.
Who said he's coming to cover the game, and the Celtics play at 1. Would they cross over the Celtics and the Bruins at the same time?
No.
I had somebody point out to me that the Nuggets and the Avalanche played in the same day, and both were maybe Game 7. But that's not a Game 1 you're designing the schedule situation, right? That's unfortunately both made it this far.
The fact that it's not Saturday is weird.
It's
The
unfortunate.
Celtics are why. The Celtics also play Tuesday night.
Yeah,
When's
they're gonna
game
cross them
2?
over
Like
Tuesday.
I know it's not the end-all be-all like you're saying, or be-all end-all, but I don't know. I think there probably was some real difficulty by, the last couple of days with TV. And it's kind of baffling how that would be possible.
I think I've seen also that Philadelphia has big-time arena complications for games 3 and 4 in that series.
Same basketball series, right? Celtics and Sixers, and Philadelphia will be home next weekend, and that would be the Flyers too because they're on the road. That's the building, different from this Boston point. Very good. Thanks, Jared.
Thanks, Mike.
Jeremy White joining us for our annual NFL pre-draft special presented by your Upstate Honda dealers. For great deals, visit your local Upstate Honda dealer today. Lines are open now if you want to jump in on the draft or even talk about the hockey playoffs. I'm here for it, 803-0550. No Bulldog until Tuesday. I'm Mike Schopp, and this is WGR.
If you want more miles per gallon and less pain at the pump, check out Honda, America's most fuel-efficient full-line automaker, featuring Honda's award-winning hybrid lineup, including Civic Hybrid, Accord Hybrid, and CR-V Hybrid, with all three making the Car and Driver 10 Best list. So whether it's a trip across country for vacation or just across town for practice, Honda helps make your ride more affordable. For deals that are easy on gas and easy to afford, see your Upstate Honda dealer today.
maybe the fact that the Bruins and Celtics could end up playing games at the same time takes a back seat here to whatever other politics are involved. And, there are going to be arena issues in different markets, like we talked about, Jeremy and I just now, about Philadelphia. There could be others of those. I don't know, Denver, maybe. But something got in the stew that did not, as much grief as the NHL always gets, I doubt they were planning to get to tonight without naming times for at least the Eastern games. I don't know. I hope to find out. Greg Wyshynski or somebody come through and tell us what went sideways, if it's something. Like one premise, I wasn't just making this up. I mean, one premise we were working on was that a Canadian team would play Saturday night, because that's kind of what always happens. And it's not. Tampa can't host, so that's going to be Sunday. And Ottawa, Carolina is at 3 o'clock. So there goes that. I mean, just like when Sal and I with Bulldog kind of playfully dabble with the NFL primetime schedule and what could happen, knowing that it's pretty much futile. You can't expect to get it right. It's just fun. There are certain tenets that you think you can trust. One for me with football, not that you care, is that first game or that first week of games, it seemed to me it didn't used to be such great matchups. You don't really need that, I think, would be the logic. It's opening week. Like, we'll take anything. You're not going to make it bad, but you don't have to make it like a Super Bowl rematch or something like that. But that kind of changed when Amazon showed up, or when Buck and Aikman went to Monday Night Football. They rolled out Russell Wilson back in Seattle. I thought, like, that'll never happen the first game. You save that. But it did. I mean, there are better matchups than that. Just like in general, I think they've turned toward the best we can do in week one. Almost the best we can do. Anyway, if that might not be germane to what happened with hockey, but it is not good that it's 48 hours away, or could have been, and we don't know when the game is. Mike Schopp here, back after this on WGR.
In Western New York, we get to the game no matter what. That means an all-wheel drive SUV you can count on, and that means Honda. And right now, your Upstate Honda dealer has outstanding deals on Honda's all-star lineup, including MVPs like CR-V, HR-V, and the Honda Pilot. And right here, right now, there's never been a better time to get a great deal on an award-winning Honda SUV. For deals and details, visit upstate.hondadealers.com today.
The Stanley Cup playoff schedule for this weekend. We do know when the Sabres will be playing. That is going to be on Sunday when they host Boston for Game 1, though the time for all the Sunday matchups and the rest of the first round will be announced following the completion of tonight's games, which are all for the Western Conference, though we do know the Saturday schedule. First game will be at 3 o'clock, Ottawa at Carolina. Then at 5:30, it's Dallas hosting Minnesota. And then to wrap up our evening at 8, it will be Pittsburgh hosting Philadelphia. For the Sabres, though, today they did have practice. Alex Tuch given the day off, while Colton Ellis had a maintenance day. Some good news for Alex Lyon. He is expected to practice tomorrow. And then looking ahead, Noah Ostlund does have a chance to play in this first-round series. Sam Carrick, however, does not. And that is according to head coach Lindy Ruff. And the Sabres Injury Report is brought to you by Hamburg Overhead Door. Is your garage door injured? Call the experts at Hamburg Overhead Door to get your door healthy again. In baseball, we had some early afternoon action. The Yankees did go down to the Angels 11-4, while the Jays fell to Milwaukee 2-1. And then coming up in just the next few minutes, Bisons are at Rochester. First pitch again in just a few minutes at 6:05, and that game can be heard over on our sister station, the Bet 1520. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones from Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
It's Mike Schopp.
You might be mocking me or you might be staunchly agreeing with me. I can't tell.
I'm mocking you.
And the Bulldog.
What is Fozzie Bear's role in this production?
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Well, you're not expecting this, but I'll just say it. Like, I've been watching this A's game today in here, MLB Network. It's the Rangers and the A's. And it has seemingly been, well, I don't know, maybe the windiest game in the history of baseball. I've looked up a half a dozen times, and players cannot handle the wind. Outfielders are lost over their head. Guy just hit a 3-run double because the left fielder couldn't find the ball. I think it's super windy and maybe like a high sky, so outfielders, like it's their nightmare scenario. Anyway, 6-6 in the ninth. May it last. Enjoyed our pre-draft show. I hope you did. You want to talk to me about what you think the Bills will do or should do, as I mentioned, or Nate mentioned when he was on with me. We had Sal, Nate, Joe, and Jeremy through the day. What you want and what you think they'll do are often very different things. They're usually different things, right? So who knows? But the trade down stuff, Jeremy does well to push back against that. Do you want to do it just to do it? And I think I want to cop to saying yes to that. I think I do want to do it just to do it. For the reasons Jeremy said people give, and hi, my hand is up, that you can't beat the draft, as he put it, and those kinds of thoughts. And yeah, that's good enough for me, I think. Now, his scenario where you're trading a first-round pick and a later pick for 2 in the middle, which side is better? I don't think necessarily it has to be the side where you're not picking in the first round. There are contractual facets to that to consider. I think I think it's partly a position need conversation. I mean, of course, with quarterback, there's that, but just if I've got a draft that's long in a certain position, I might be inclined to try to double up on day 2 rather than lean into day 1 and whatever, whoever my group thinks is the best player. That's what I want to bet against in the draft, is thinking you know more than you actually do, which for me ranges from being a source of frustration when I listen to the Bills talk, or any team really, to a source of amusement, because it can be laughable how much certainty they express about players. Their optimism is great. You'd better be optimistic for the player you drafted, but any sort of idea that what's going to happen is, ridiculous. Or not ridiculous, but just like not quite the right point, at least. So, yeah. But I want to do well by the charts. And that's what I said the whole time about the Worthy-Coleman trade with the Chiefs. I know Bulldog and a lot of fans would have hung up the phone on Kansas City at that point in time. I don't want to deal with the Chiefs. I would not have, but I would need to do better than they did. And I know these numbers vary. There are lots of different trade charts, and I don't know which one the Bills, if any, they probably subscribe to one of them, which it would be. But when I looked at a couple that day, there's one that I use the most often. That's Draft Tech, just for some, perspective on what a trade might look like. It didn't really think the Bills gained any draft capital by making that trade with the Chiefs. What I liked about it was that in a draft where you had all these different wide receivers and you could really have your own cup of tea, go ahead and push it back if you're not into Worthy, say. And that's, probably how the Bills felt. Or else they just would have picked him. If they thought he was a tier above, they would have just taken the guy. Because, again, they did not really do that well in that trade. So, hockey is more top of mind here with the season the Sabres have had, and maybe for you too. But the NFL draft is the NFL draft. It's 1 week from tonight, the first round anyway. And we'll do our best in here through this week and then next week at trying to keep everything in the window. 803-0550 for your calls. I started today, used the first hour with the draft special in mind that was coming up to talk about the Sabres and the lack of information about the schedule, which is almost hard to believe. The fact that it's hockey maybe makes it more believable, but it's frustrating to not know when the game will be at this point, so close to the beginning of the playoffs. I'm sure a lot of you agree with that. But anyway, whenever it starts, enthusiasm and anticipation for it are off the charts. We've talked so much about how long it's been, of course, for the Sabres and their fans. And I've had Joe in here earlier and just thinking about like my kids and other people with teenagers or young adults, just like they really don't know what this is going to be. I hope it lasts just for the sake of that experience, that you get at least a long series with Boston, if not a winning one. I'll say again, I think that every team in the Eastern Conference can feel like it did well by their matchups. The one that I would say really, I'm not sure I'd want to describe it the same way is Ottawa, because, they were the 8th seed. You get who you get, and there's no sense of like being able to choose their opponent. So the fact that they get Carolina, is what it is. They got in. But everybody else, I think Pittsburgh has to like Philadelphia as their matchup. I think Philadelphia is probably much like Ottawa, just fine. They both ended up, right, with 98 points. So great rivalry, tied in the standings. Philadelphia, they've been hot, and they can feel good about what they've got. I think probably, and again, this is not something that everybody would agree on, but I think as far as Tampa Bay goes, getting a Montreal team that is exciting up top and dangerous, but not as deep. They got an important injury on the blue line with Dobson. Tampa's a cocky team. They probably like their matchup just fine. And Montreal, having played Tampa twice recently, splitting those games or even maybe winning both. They did win both. They won the game in Tampa with some empty net goals late, and then they won the home game too on a late goal. So, yeah, you just like the Sabres might have felt had they drawn the Lightning, you've beaten them more than once recently, and they ended up tied in the standings. So I think everybody there would feel like, okay, we're live. And some of those teams would even prefer the matchup that they got. I think Pittsburgh would be that. I think Tampa, if not also Montreal, would be that. Carolina will take it. They're the 1 seed. They'll take their chances with the 8 in the Senators. And then I think also the Sabres and the Bruins are also this. I think Boston is probably felt like it could have done worse in the draw. And that's Tampa Bay, quintessentially, probably for most teams. But they get a Sabres team without the experience, and whatever else might come from that. It's been such a good season, but the Sabres are not perfect. It almost sounds funny saying that, and unnecessary to say that, because their record has been so insanely good. I don't know. The fact that they're new to the playoffs would maybe be enough for an opponent to feel like they've got, a live look at it. And Boston, by a lot of the metrics, is not great. And that would make the Sabres feel good. Head-to-head, it's not too telling. 2 early season games with the Bruins that the Bruins won both of, and then this game in March that the Sabres won in overtime. Or the Bruins won in overtime in Buffalo. So I guess they won all 3? No, the Sabres beat Boston in December. So it was 3-1, I believe, in the end, season series. 803-0550 to join me. Sneaky Joe, who was here for the pre-draft special, did some work this morning looking up. This is often the first interaction I have with anybody on an occasional weekday morning is with Joe, who will send me a text, such as the one today. Lindy Ruff has coached against 19 coaches in the playoffs. And that's Joe's way of asking me, do you want to try to list them for me? Do you want to guess 19 coaches? And I didn't. I was thinking about, how many I could think of, and then I moved on. But later he sent me a text that said that, and maybe he talked about this on the air. He and I didn't talk about it when he was here, so I don't know. That Ruff has coached against 3 former Sabre coaches in the playoffs. And that one, all right, I'll try this one. So I got to one right away, and that is Ted Nolan. Nolan, the coach of that Islander team in 2007 that made the first round. So I knew that one right away. I guessed John Muckler next, and that isn't correct. I thought maybe Muckler would have been with Ottawa one of those years. Sabres have played Ottawa in the playoffs, 4 times? Maybe he would have been the coach for one of them, but really it's more just, are there really 3 former Sabre coaches that Ruff has faced in the playoffs? And instead of, Joe told me that Muckler was wrong. I changed from trying to figure out by the season, like take Lindy Ruff's career all the way, and then remember that he coached Dallas in the playoffs and New Jersey in the playoffs. Maybe there's somebody there. But I think a better way to do it was to just think about all the Sabres coaches. And, who would it be? Do you know this answer? Who would it be? So I am thinking about, Bilesma, but I don't remember that having happened, so I don't think that's right. I didn't want to guess it, waste a guess, like I'm doing a New York Times puzzle or something where there's a limited amount of mistakes you can make. I don't think Joe works like that. Didn't want to, go with Bilesma. Phil Housley, no. Didn't coach anywhere else. Ralph Kruger, no. I mean, Ralston. These are all the coaches the Sabres have had, including Nolan, since Ruff got here in the first place in 1997. So I'm stumped. And Joe then says, after telling me that Muckler is wrong, he says the 2 names you need predate Ruff coming to Buffalo. Well, that has to be right now because I'm out of names. So then I went to the computer at this point. Oh my gosh. Okay, Roger Nielsen. So Roger Nielsen, who was the Sabres coach in 81, in between Bowman stints, Roger Nielsen was here in the early 80s. And he coaches the Flyers in, 98, I think it would be. They had a few different coaches there, Philadelphia. 97, when they beat the Sabres, is maybe Terry Murray. But Nielsen fits in there. And, all right, so that's right. And then I am completely out of gas on this. Who would be a third ex-Sabres coach that would have gone up against Lindy Ruff in a playoff series? As a coach, as a head coach. Both of them, right? No tricks. Not when Ruff was playing for the Sabres. No tricks. And Joe, eventually, I don't know. I'm done. I can't think of anybody else who it could have been. And he said Craig Ramsey. I'm like, wait a minute. And that I had completely blocked out of my brain. That Craig Ramsey coached the Flyers. So I don't want to give in to Joe yet. maybe he's already tested this on Jeremy or on the air. Like, I'm not sure I want to give in to him yet. So back online, Craig Ramsey, and he's not listed. I remember it now that Joe mentions it, but I'm still like not sure of what year it is or anything. He's not listed as having coached Philadelphia in the season where we're talking about. 2001, which again, they meet. And Ramsey is the coach of that team, but is replaced by Bill Barber. And I had met Bill Barber when I was working in Rochester. He coached the AHL team in Philadelphia. And I remember his getting the Flyers job and then seeing him at the arena. I think he was coach of the year. Joe mentioned that too, in 01. So that isn't Ramsey. What happened in 2000, Joe looked it up and we figured it out, is that Nielsen was the Flyers coach but left for medical reasons. He left the team. And Ramsey filled in. So in the playoffs, it's Ramsey behind the bench for the Flyers. Nielsen's not there. But in the records, it all counts under Nielsen. So whatever that was. I mean, you have these in sports once in a while where the coach takes leave, but the replacement doesn't get the records, wins and losses attributed to him. So that's where we ended up. That's your trivia question. You might have enjoyed thinking about it for yourself, and I didn't give you that opportunity, at least for very long. Long enough. The answer is 2, officially, ex-Sabre coaches to have faced a Lindy Ruff Sabres team, or any team, in the playoffs. It didn't happen in the other, when Ruff was with Dallas or Jersey. But it's Ted Nolan and Roger Nielsen, officially, too. Ramsey's an interesting little sidebar to that. Well, we're going to wrap up for today pretty soon, and it looks like we're still not going to have the answer on the Sabres start time here. I'm checking right now to make sure I haven't missed it in the last 10 minutes by the time we're done. Maybe now it just waits until all the Western games are over. And there are still a couple matchups that are to be decided out west. What happens to Edmonton? Edmonton, Anaheim, if they'll end up playing each other, or LA. There's still some action tonight that'll figure that out. But it's been a story all day that the Eastern teams, where the matchups have been set for days now, we still don't know what's coming for this. And we know from the Sabres, who tweeted themselves early today, or maybe early afternoon, that it would be Sunday. And, whatever, right? I know that if you have tickets or you want tickets, you want to know if you can make it, like if you're open to being able to go to the game. That's what we're kind of all waiting on, but just so excited for all of it. Last night I was in there, and I enjoyed it so much. I told Joe that, or maybe he heard me say it when he was here, and he looked at me sideways a little bit, like, really? And I said, yeah, and I talked about this yesterday some. Whatever it says about me, I liked that it was no stress, but that it's, it's the playoffs are next, and it's positives, as opposed to a losing season where there's no stress either, but you're miserable. Like every one of these season finales going back however long. I mean, not all of them were the same, because you had teams that were decent and maybe even in it to the last few games, and others that were just, hoping to lose, as we know. But I thought I had a smile on my face all night. And it's strange, though, that combination of factors, just, you're not used to this, where they're going to the playoffs, so that's already known. With that, they're sitting several of their top players. Like, why would that, unless they're hurt, which that's not the case. So that's more like a preseason vibe, where you go to a preseason game, it's like half the team is going to play. And you might not get Thompson, Dahlin, et cetera. And that was how last night fell. So you had those things. And there's also just like nothing to lose. It wasn't that dreadful end of season, funereal kind of thing. Quite not. So I loved it. I mean, you do eventually also want, what is this to say? The stress is about to return. The stress went away for one game. They needed game 81. They didn't need game 82. And now it's for real. So the stress is coming back. Brace yourselves. Try not to, if it doesn't go well on Sunday, assume the worst. long series, these things. Hopefully, anyway. I mean, I'd like to think so. These teams are all close enough. The Sabres are a fairly good favorite by the odds against the Bruins. I think I saw minus 170 or minus 175, which is close to very close to what Carolina is. That's where it started from what I saw for Carolina series against Ottawa. That's a pretty good compliment, hopefully a good sign. I tend to think of those things as being that. So I liked seeing minus 175 next to the Sabres. So objectively, there is a decent amount of confidence in them. I talked to Paul earlier. If you missed that, that's going to be on the Odyssey app, as always. Free to check that out. About like what kind of clues there might have been today about their lineup thoughts. And just a couple things. He said that Alex Tuch didn't practice just because he had to play last night. I mean, if that's the right way to put it. Other guys got the night off. He did not. So Ruff gave Tuch today off. And it was Logan Stanley with Connor Timmins working together on the third pair today from what Paul saw. Paul also saw an Amerks bag around Zach Metza somewhere and wondered if that was a sign, but didn't know that it was. So Stanley and Timmins, if today is any clue, might be what the Sabres are planning on for Game 1, which again we know will be Sunday. And I'm thinking probably Sunday night because an ESPN announcer said he's doing the game, and that's a night game. That's where ESPN is on Sunday, TNT in the afternoon. The pre-draft special was a lot of fun today. Nice having everybody around. I never get to talk to the morning guys especially, so that was cool. And also Sal Capacio, a part of that. My conversation with him is next here on WGR.
If you want more miles per gallon and less pain at the pump, check out Honda, America's most fuel-efficient full-line automaker, featuring Honda's award-winning hybrid lineup, including Civic Hybrid, Accord Hybrid, and CR-V Hybrid, with all three making the Car and Driver 10 Best list. So whether it's a trip across country for vacation or just across town for practice, Honda helps make your ride more affordable. For deals that are easy on gas and easy to afford, see your Upstate Honda dealer today. In Western New York, we get to the game no matter what. That means an all-wheel drive SUV you can count on, and that means Honda. And right now, your Upstate Honda dealer has outstanding deals on Honda's all-star lineup, including MVPs like CR-V, HR-V, and the Honda Pilot. And right here, right now, there's never been a better time to get a great deal on an award-winning Honda SUV. For deals and details, visit upstate.hondadealers.com today.